Let's go to Jeff Patrick. Jeff, good evening. What do you know?
Good afternoon. Service certainly has been greatly affected by this shooting in downtown. We suspended light rail service through the tunnel. However, just a short time ago, I did get the word that police have cleared us to begin restoring service. So that's good news. We will be getting the trains running again. There will be delays as we do so. And as our light rail riders know, this is actually a very challenging time right now because our service is reduced anyway due to construction. So we're going to be working to get our trains running back every 14 minutes in each direction.
I'm curious because yesterday around the same time, we had a similar situation. Did it also impact travel yesterday? And what do you have in place for situations, for emergencies like this? Do you have a master plan?
Well, with our light rail service, when the police say that we need to stop serving stations or stop service altogether, as we did, that's what we do. Yeah. So there's not really a backup plan for that. And I think our riders, unfortunately, were impacted at the surface level too. We had buses that were being rerouted, and it's just not a good evening commute due to this tragedy.
Yeah, we're talking with Jeff Patrick with Sound Transit. Jeff, one more question. Last September there was an altercation in this same area, a fight that spilled down into the transit tunnel. There was a deadly shooting. What kind of security changes have happened since that shooting in September that you can tell our public?
Well, first I want to emphasize that this is not a shooting that occurred inside the transit system, but outside. It had spillover impacts affecting what the police asked us to close the station. But to your question, we have an increased security presence right now, and particularly during this time when our service is impacted by construction. Each of our platforms have numerous Sound Transit people who are out helping people get where they need to go. So there are a lot of eyes, a lot of staff on the platforms right now.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeff. We appreciate your time. And we probably will want to talk with you later again this afternoon as things progress. We appreciate your time. Sebastian Robertson's also part of our team coverage. Sebastian, where are you and what can you tell us?
Close as he ever gets to a real news story.
Harborview Medical Center is confirming that they are prepared to and that they are accepting victims, people that were injured in this shooting. Information just coming in very quickly, but we know that at least a few people have been injured. Some of those will be brought here to Harborview. Harborview is prepared to treat victims of a mass casualty. This is something that they prepare for, not saying that is what is happening in this case, but they are a level 1 trauma center, the only one in the region that is prepared to do so. Being that this is hospital security or Seattle police, but this is more than what you'd expect to see on any given evening. I've counted 8 Seattle PD units, many of those with lights and sirens. It would be fair to assume that they are involved with this shooting on the other side of town in downtown. Again, Harborview Medical Center standing by and actively treating some people injured in this shooting at 3rd and Pine. Back to you.
Sebastian Robertson, thank you. Let's go to Natalie Swaby right now. Natalie, where are you and what can you tell us?
Yeah, Mark, 5th and Pine is right behind my shoulder, and I'm right here where all these businesses are located that would normally be open right now, but I want to show you this. This is Sephora. The sign says that we're closed for the evening. We'll reopen tomorrow. Apologize for the inconvenience.
This evening at about 5 p.m. we got a call of shots fired at 3rd and Pine. We had a lot of officers already nearby. We responded immediately. We discovered victims at the scene in about a 1-block radius or so. Officers immediately started life-saving measures for all the victims that were there. Chief Scoggins from our fire department can give you more detail on that. So far right now we have our homicide unit out here, our gang unit, as well as a ton of first responders. We've locked down the scene, and this is not an active shooting at this point, but we are collecting evidence and information so that we can find out a description of our lone shooter. We just don't have that, or what appears to be a lone shooter. We don't even have that information for sure at this point. It's all very preliminary, as you know. We've locked it down. We're gathering as much information as we can from witnesses and from businesses in the area. And I'll have Chief Scoggins talk about the status of the victims.
So good evening. My name is Harold Scoggins, Fire Chief of the Seattle Fire Department. At 5:01 this afternoon, we started receiving calls of multiple gunshot victims. So we called a multi-casualty incident. That incident requires a pretty large response. We had a total of 45 personnel dispatched from the Seattle Fire Department. We had 5 engines, 2 ladders, 2 aid cars, 4 medic units, 2 battalion chiefs, and 1 deputy chiefs. And we were also assisted by American Medical Response. When our units arrived on scene, we found a total of 6 patients on scene. One of those patients was pronounced dead here at the scene, and the other 5 patients, we consider them red patients, which means that they're critical, so they need to get to the hospital. They were all transported by Seattle Fire units as well as AMR units. So a total of 5 patients were transported. 1 is DOA here at the scene. So we haven't received any updates from Harborview on the status of the patients at this point. So that's what we have right now.
Did it appear, Chief, that those patients would survive?
It appears that way right now, but we won't know until we get the update.
Right. And I can tell you we don't have a lot of information. This is all preliminary. We will be back within 45 minutes or so to give you as much information and new updates as we have. Very preliminary and ongoing, but we wanted to make sure you know what we have right now.
But all 6 are gunshot victims.
Can you tell us anything about the suspect at all?
We just have a preliminary description of a male shooter. So we're looking for video and for other witnesses to see if anybody has more information they can provide to us at this time.
3 shootings in 2 days, Chief, in this area. Do we believe that these are all connected, or what's going on?
There's nothing at this point to connect any of these shootings. So I can't give that answer definitively, but nothing preliminary that connects any of these shootings. We do know we have had a number of resources out here, multiple resources working on all of any issues with violence and gangs in the city. So we were able to respond really quickly because of that.
And we know it's so preliminary right now.
We'll have more information soon, guys.
Yeah, I can't hear the question.
That'll do it.
All right, we'll be right back in about 45 minutes or so with more information, as much as we can give you.
Thank you, Chief.
That right there.
So right there,
So
of
we've been
course, you saw
listening to the
Chief
police
Carmen Best
chief.
there speaking to us.
Carmen Best, and I believe Michael Crow still on the scene there gathering information. Let me just tell you what we know that she said at this point. It does appear that this has been a fatal shooting now. 1 person has died, 5 others were injured, wounded, taken to the hospital. And what's most disturbing, besides the fact that this is now a fatal shooting, is that the gunman is still on the loose, and they have just a very preliminary description of that person, only knowing that he's a male, clearly armed, and they're hoping to get video, as you pointed out earlier, some kind of information that will help them figure out who this is. And there's no reason at this point to understand why or if there's any connection between any of these shootings.
Yeah, so in the city of Seattle, our firefighters are also paramedics and first responders, and Chief Harold Scoggins said 5:01 is when the calls just started coming in. 1 dead, 5 red or critical patients have been taken to the hospital. I'm sorry, Chelsea, where are we going next? Natalie Swaby on 5th Avenue nearby. Natalie, take it away.
Yeah, we are near 5th and Pine, have Westlake Park behind me, and you can tell that downtown stores are reacting, and pretty quickly, by putting signs like this in their window. This is Sephora. They've closed for the evening, saying they apologize for the inconvenience. And we're going to show you around this way at Westlake Center. You can see it's dark, and you go and you check the doors at each one of these places. The doors are locked tonight. Just was at Nordstrom Rack, and that store is also closed right now. And in this direction, you can see some flashing lights, but as we pivot around here and you look down Pine Street in this other direction, you can see the massive scene out here, the police presence, and a lot of people here are also dealing with the traffic impact. We got stuck in the gridlock ourselves. It's hard to get around downtown. Police and fire obviously saying avoid this area if you can, and a lot of businesses out here also responding to that by, like I said, locking their doors, sending their employees home. So in this section, it's starting to quiet down, but obviously the focus over there as this investigation continues tonight. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Natalie Swaby, thank you.
Let's get to Michael Crow, who's been downtown covering this since really it started. You even heard those first shots fired. Michael, we now know that one person has died and 5 others were wounded. What more can you tell us about this?
Right, that's what we just heard from Chief Carmen Best, who came up here to speak with reporters that have been on scene. Like you said, we know one person has died after they were shot here at this scene. We saw several people that were shot when we arrived here just a few minutes after this happened earlier. The question, though, for Chief Best there after that was, where is the suspect? What happens? We were asking about that, and all she could tell us right now is they just have a really initial description of a male suspect. So they are looking for video right now. You can see all the investigators here behind me that are working this scene. We've seen folks going around, canvassing businesses, looking for cameras, that kind of thing. So they are looking for video of this incident right now so that they can figure out who this suspect might be and track this person down. Because as you know right now, this suspect is currently on the loose. They are looking for this person that has apparently shot 6 people, killing 1. That is the word from Chief Carmen Best just a few minutes ago. But the scene really remains about what we've seen. You've got 3rd Avenue up here at Pine that is blocked off, still no traffic passing through here, and of course crime scene tape keeping us back. If you pan to the right, just around the corner, that is where photographer Megan Murnane and I ran up here and saw at least 2 shooting victims that were on the sidewalk right there, both of them receiving care. We'll turn around here and look towards 4th Avenue, which did open to traffic a little bit ago. Of course, this side street, Pine here, is blocked off, but they are now allowing this commuting traffic to pass through. So the number of police units here has decreased a little bit since we last talked to you, but the investigation, of course, is still very active into this shooting that we now know has killed 1 person, with 5 more that have been taken off to Harborview for treatment. Back to you.
All right. King 5's Michael Crow, as we said earlier, this area of downtown Seattle has been the scene of a number of shootings. One just yesterday, one last September, a deadly shooting. Let's go to Jessica Janner Castro with more information on this part of town. Jessica.
Hi there, guys. I want to show you a zoom in here on our map where Michael Crow is reporting from. Draw a big circle here for you if we can. And of course, this is the scene that we're talking about in these last few hours or so where this mass shooting happened. And earlier today, we also had a shooting at 3rd and Blanchard. So you can see that's just a few blocks away. And then yesterday, we also had a shooting at Westlake Center that's really right close to the shooting that happened this afternoon. So several shootings within just the last 24 hours. And we heard Michael Crow there asking police whether or not these were at all related. They said that they could not say that at this point. But again, we have a suspect still on the loose from tonight's shooting that occurred just about an hour ago. The suspect in the shooting earlier today is hospitalized. And so it has been a very busy and active 24 hours. In fact, this is the shooting earlier today. We have some video of it. Again, a very active 24 hours in that area, in the core of downtown, and really prompting the question of what kind of violence are we seeing in the core of downtown? A lot of people talking about that on social media tonight. Back to you.
Yeah, and to clarify, officer-involved shooting at 3rd and Blanchard today. We're still sorting out details of that.
We want to get to Robert Green now, who's joining us live by phone, somebody who works in the downtown area and was there very soon after those shots were fired. Robert, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. Tell us what you experienced down there.
Yeah, well, I had just got home and I heard like some weird noises. I wasn't quite sure what it was. And I got up from my couch and I walked towards the window. And I mean, that's how long the shots were firing. And I saw like so many people running from like the opposite direction of the McDonald's. And you can imagine like how many people were actually there because it's kind of a traffic-y area and it was kind of like rush hour. And so it was really crazy seeing all these people run. And then as soon as everyone kind of scattered, I saw a body on the floor. And I wasn't sure if the man was alive. And then he started moving. So they actually got him on a stretcher. And then I saw them cover up someone with a sheet. They actually covered up a few people with a sheet. So at first I thought there were multiple fatalities. But now it looks to be like there's just one and the body's still just there. I'm looking at it right now from my window. It was just really, really crazy.
So, Robert, it's got to be traumatic that you live right in this area. We heard someone earlier say there were several shots and then about a dozen. Is that your recollection of how many shots were fired?
To put a number on it is hard because I wasn't really counting because there was it was such a weird sound. And it kind of sounded like maybe buses were clinking or maybe there was an accident or like something with something weird. But it happened for like maybe 20 seconds, 15 seconds. And it was rapid.
I'm still, I think, just mentally stuck on the fact that you're looking outside of your window and somebody has lost their life. How long have you lived there? I can't imagine you've ever experienced anything like this before. And this is your neighborhood, right?
Actually, I have. I've lived here for 2 years, and I've seen quite a lot from this window. There was recently a shooting last year, and then there was also a stabbing near Nordstrom a few months ago. And my husband was just attacked by just some random person, and we had to get the officer involved with that as well. So
what do you think is going on?
Area.
What do you think is going on in the downtown core?
There's not enough cops. They only show up when something crazy happens, and there's just a lot of crime here in this area. It's historically known as like a heavy traffic crime area, and so the cops tend to ignore it unless there's like an event going on or there's a lot of tourists that day. But usually it's a free-for-all. Like there was a guy doing donuts in the middle of 3rd and Pike the other day. It was crazy.
Wow. Robert, how long have you lived there again?
This is my second year.
Second year. Are you having second thoughts about living in this part of Seattle? I'm guessing you like it because it's right in the heart of Seattle and close to all the stuff that we love, right?
Yeah, exactly. My commute's great. The apartment's state of the art. I pay a lot for this apartment, and there's no way I'm going to be staying in this area when my lease is up. No way.
Wow. And why is that?
It's dangerous. I mean, there's people in their cars parked right in front of my apartment all day long dealing drugs. All day long. And at any point, anything can go wrong.
Frustrated isn't quite the word I'd use to express what I'm feeling coming from you. I think you can probably express it best. What are some of the things that you're feeling along with frustration?
Anxiety. I'm scared to leave my apartment right now. We don't know where the person is. I'm extremely angry at Seattle PD for not monitoring an area where they know this is like a horrible, horrible area full of crime. I just don't feel safe. And it makes me really, really sad to see like normal people just waiting on the bus getting shot. I mean, that could have been me if I were 1 minute later.
Sorry that you've even had to experience that. It sounds like you have experienced quite a lot living where you do, in a place that you call home, and obviously a place that you really do care a lot about. We appreciate you calling in. Is there anything else that you'd like our viewers to know that you want to share?
If you see something, do something. That's it.
Yeah. Robert, we heard from someone else who works in the downtown area that said that they have to keep their head on a swivel. He used to walk with earbuds in his ears. When you navigate this part of Seattle, I mean, what's your strategy? I mean, you obviously have to keep your eyes open, right? So as you're out and about, what's your strategy?
Well, I come from a very, very harsh environment in Houston, and so I'm kind of used to looking down, just ignoring everything that's around you, and just staying out of harm's way, kind of staying away from the McDonald's on that corner. It's really, really bad. All the way up towards the Walgreens and past that, it's really, really intense. So I just kind of stay away from that area. I walk around it, kind of go on the 4th Avenue Street, or I go on the 2nd Avenue Street. It's a little less intense. So that's kind of how I navigate through that.
We are out of time. I just quickly want to know, Robert, how old are you? And you should call your mom and let her know you're okay. How old are you?
I'm 32.
Okay.
Well, Robert,
Take care.
We really appreciate you opening your heart up to us, and man, we are just hurting for you that you're right in the middle of all this and have had to experience what you have. Thank you for spending a few moments with us, Robert.
Take care, okay?
Yep, thank you.
Well, what a night. We are following breaking news that mass shooting, now a fatal shooting, has left multiple people injured and one person dead in downtown Seattle near Westlake Center.
You're looking at a live picture of the scene. Emergency vehicles have 3rd and 4th Avenue shut down in that area. Started just after 5 o'clock, so we're about 90 minutes in. A number of ambulances rushed into the area. So let's break down what we know right now.
So the shooting happened just around 5 o'clock. It happened right near Westlake Center, 3rd and Pine. Several people injured. Lots of people heard shots. We heard people describing it as a very chaotic scene, people running in a panic. No details yet about the conditions of the 5 people that have been hospitalized, but we know one person has died.
That's right. Let's go to Michael Crow, who's been in the area for about the last 90 minutes. Michael, what do you know right now?
Right. Well, so the latest that we just got from police when they spoke to us a few minutes ago, police and fire officials, is we now know this is a fatal shooting. One person has been killed in this shooting here in the Westlake area. 5 others injured. They've been taken to the hospital right now. I want to give you a look at the scene here behind me. You're looking at Pine and 3rd Avenue right now. We have heard from witnesses here that they saw this shooting happen a little bit more towards the side here with the McDonald's on this corner. When we were here, the surreal detail of all of this is we were just a couple of blocks down 3rd Avenue covering an officer-involved shooting. We were hearing from police the details of what went down there in a narcotics operation where during the arrest of a suspect, they fired on that suspect and then arrested them. We heard the gunfire. Several people turned and looked. They could hear it, and people kind of were like, oh, is that fireworks? And then all of a sudden the sirens started and people started running down here. We personally, Megan Murnane and I, the photojournalist behind the lens here, we saw at least 2 shooting victims right up here being helped. You know, people with bullet wounds in the leg. We couldn't see where another person was shot, but he was pulled inside a building being helped by people. But here is what we have heard from officials just in the last couple of minutes. Take a listen.
Let me tell you what we know right now. This evening at about 5 p.m. we got a call of shots fired at 3rd and Pine. We had a lot of officers already nearby. We responded immediately. We discovered victims at the scene in about a 1-block radius or so. Officers immediately started life-saving measures for all the victims that were there. Chief Scoggins from our fire department can give you more detail on that.
So we called a multi-casualty incident. That incident requires a pretty large response. We had a total of 45 personnel dispatched from the Seattle Fire Department. We had 5 engines, 2 ladders, 2 aid cars, 4 medic units, 2 battalion chiefs, and 1 deputy chiefs. And we were also assisted by American Medical Response. When our units arrived on scene, we found a total of 6 patients on scene. One of those patients was pronounced dead here at the scene, and the other 5 patients, we consider them red patients, which means that they're critical, so they need to get to the hospital.
Tell us anything about the suspect at all.
We just have a preliminary description of a male shooter. So we're looking for video and for other witnesses to see if anybody has more information they can provide to us at this time.
So police have promised to come back in about 45 minutes, probably about a half hour now after that last conversation, and give us another update. The question, of course, is that we don't really know anything about this shooter, is whether there is further danger. That is the question that we would, of course, like to ask police. But the scene has quieted off a little bit, but still plenty of police activity here as they look for that video up here towards 3rd, and we're going to turn this way, and you can see investigators, of course, working down here towards 4th as well, even though it has opened to traffic. Still plenty of police in the area working this very active scene of what we now know is a fatal shooting. 1 person killed, 5 others injured in a shooting down in Westlake area after this violent act today and a violent act yesterday, of course. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Michael, thank you.
So we want to get now to Dina. I believe last name is Johns. Please correct me if I don't have your name right. But Dina, it's our understanding you might have seen the shooter. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Dina, first of all, is your name Dina Johns?
My name is Dina Johns, yes.
Okay, tell us what you saw.
So I work at Oracle. I leave work about 4 o'clock. I catch my bus by Target. So I'm walking towards Pike Place Market. At the corner, heading towards Park Place Market, there was a gentleman, about 5'5", 5'6", had a gray hoodie on, African American, yelling at a gray car that's in the intersection, was going to make a left-hand turn, telling him to shut up. I'm not going to tell you again, shut up. If you don't shut up, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot you. Shut up. I'm going to shoot you. That whole block area, there was a whole bunch of people, heard it, saw it. It lasted maybe about 3 to 5 minutes, him arguing with the vehicle. And then the gentleman headed back up towards my place of employment.
So, Dina, let me understand this a little bit better. Was the gunman in a car or a pedestrian?
No, it was a pedestrian on the corner yelling at a car that was turning. It was a gray car.
Okay, so
a small-sized gray car, yes.
Okay, so did he open fire on that gray car?
No, he was just threatening him. He was, telling him to shut
the
F up, and yeah.
But you think this is the person who pulled a gun and started the shooting? This is just what you think, but you didn't see him with a gun?
No, I didn't see him with a gun. He was just threatening the gentleman in the car. That he was going to shoot him. I'm going to shoot you. If you don't shut up, I'm going to shoot you. Do you understand? I'm going to shoot you.
With the person in the car, what did that person do? And what did you do as you were watching all this?
I was at my bus, headed towards my bus stop, and we were all around watching him. And then after that, he headed back towards up to my place of employment where Oracle is. So that the vicinity of Westlake.
Yeah. Dina, what was the exact intersection again where this started?
So it's right there at the Target is on the corner. So it's that intersection there where Target is.
So I'm hearing in your voice just some of the anxiety that you're still feeling sometime after this all transpired. You clearly walk this way, it sounds like every day. So
every day.
So what is it that you're feeling right now, just about your safety, about what happened, about all that transpired now that you know that so many people have been injured?
It's sad and it's hurting, and I didn't know it occurred until my mom called me on my way home, because I ride the sounder home, and she's upset and telling me all this has happened. And I couldn't believe it. It's very, very frightening, and you never know what's going to happen. It's scary.
Dina, did the man appear to be mentally okay, or did he appear to be high on drugs, or was it too hard to tell? He just seemed mad. He was very angry. He was very angry, I can tell you that. He was very, very angry at whomever was in the car. I didn't hear any rebuttal from the car at all, but the gentleman was very, very angry.
Have you called police yet? Because they are looking for a description, the person that's responsible for the shooting. Still at large.
I have not called. I have not called the police. I do have a friend that works for the Seattle PD, but I haven't called the police department as of yet. No.
You probably should call police, and then also try to give them that location. They'll want to probably talk to other people who were in that business at that time to get a better description of who this guy was. If that's
I'm sure there's video cameras out there, and
And just to be clear, you said he was about 5'5", 5'6". He was wearing a hoodie, African American. Was there anything else that was descriptive that you can remember?
It was a gray hoodie. He had the hood over his head. And he was just very angry at whomever was in this car.
But pants
very
or shoes,
adamant and very angry.
About an age or anything like that?
I would think maybe 32, 33.
Well, Dina, when you get off the phone with us, I would suggest calling 911 and let them know, because this guy's still out there. I'm so sorry that this happened where you go every day. But Dina, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thanks for sharing. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right, so as we said earlier, this really is in the heart of downtown Seattle, not only the retail core, but a lot of businesses in this area, kind of on the southern edge of the Amazon district. Let's go to Jessica Janet Castro to talk a little bit more about exactly where all this happened, a mass shooting in Seattle just about 5 o'clock this evening.
Jessica.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Joyce. Yeah, I want to show you here on the map exactly where this is happening, as you mentioned, in the core of downtown Seattle. And so it's right here on this corner of 3rd and Pine. And just yesterday, there was also a shooting at Westlake Center. One person found in a stairwell there, so very close in proximity. Again, the shooting at 3rd and Pine happening just about an hour, 45 minutes ago. Earlier today, we also did report on a shooting at 3rd and Blanchard. Now, this was an officer-involved shooting, and the suspect was taken to the hospital. An investigation is still ongoing here as well, but totally unrelated. We just want to point this out in the broader context of how much has been happening within the last 24 hours or so, especially when it comes to police involvement in the downtown area, both in the downtown core as well as in Belltown. I also do want to show you some of the tweets that we are getting from our viewers. Suzanne saying, my boyfriend normally takes a bus that goes right through there, but thankfully I got a hold of him before he left his office. He's going to be stuck at his office, and we're not sure how he's getting home at the moment. So many of our viewers tweeting, reacting to this on social media and saying that they go and travel in the downtown area. And as you heard from Dina, who just called in, talking about how it's part of her daily commute from Sound Transit, saying that express routes 510, 511, 512, and 513 have resumed regular routing, but expect significant delays. And that's what we're seeing. A lot of people saying how this is affecting them right now as far as commuting goes, either back home from work or perhaps they live in that area. We've heard so many people talking about how they live in the downtown core area and how they are feeling that this happened in their neighborhood. And here's just one more. Was 1 block away from Seattle shooting on Union and 3rd Avenue in front of Ross. Police officer from Ross ran out of the store towards victims. First responder there, and I helped other officers locate 2 victims in front of Macy's. So again, our viewers reacting to everything that is happening right now in downtown. Mark, Joyce, back to you.
All right.
We want to get to Harborview. As we have told you, 1 person has died, but there were 5 other people wounded, all taken to Harborview. Let's get to Sebastian Robertson, who's there with the latest on the victims in this. Sebastian.
Harborview Medical Center says that they are treating patients and relating to this shooting in downtown Seattle. Their number is a little bit different from the Seattle Police Department. Seattle Police saying 5 people were transported. Harborview saying they're treating as many as 7 people. Harborview is a level 1 trauma center. They're prepared and trained for big events like this. And being that this is a busy hospital in a major urban city, they always have some type of police presence here, be it security or state troopers, at least manning the front entrance here. But that is not the case here. There is tremendously more police presence. We've seen 8 police cars just in the general vicinity of Harborview, many of those with lights and sirens on as this scene remains active. Police continuing to work it on the other side of downtown, and here at Harborview, they're treating at least 5, as many of 7 victims from this shooting. We should expect an official on-camera update from the hospital. We're told possibly within the next half hour or so here. Back to you.
Robertson, thank you, Sebastian. So as we were talking with a man named Robert who lives near this scene, there is a person under a sheet at this location who died at the scene from this shooting today. We'll keep tabs on those who were injured. I wanted to talk a little bit more just about what Dina, that we talked to just a few moments ago, said in her opinion, this all started with a man that she believes may have been the gunman getting into an altercation at the intersection near the Target store. So the Target downtown is on 2nd Avenue between Union and Pike. She said that the guy was yelling at a driver of a gray car and said, shut up, shut up. If you don't shut up, I'll shoot you, and was very heated, very angry. That's about 4 or 5 blocks to the west of where this shooting happened at 3rd and Pine in downtown Seattle. So it's just a short walk uptown from there.
She said that confrontation lasted for 3 to 5 minutes, that went on and on. Lots of people were witness to this. And then this person started walking back toward Westlake, where this all happened. We want to get to Natalie Swaby, who's in that vicinity where the shooting happened, to bring us up to date, to find out, do we know anything more about this suspect they're looking for, Natalie?
Well, we are still not learning new details out where I am about that. What we are seeing is the reaction to the shooting scene that's just a block or two away from where I'm standing. Right now, we are in that Westlake Park, Westlake Center area, and I was just talking with one shopper who said they were told they had to leave. And maybe walk me through what happened. You said you arrived here about 15 minutes ago, and what did they tell you?
They told us that we are closed, and they asked us, and other people to leave the mall area because they were closed.
And you now have learned about what's happened, the shooting scene that way, and we were just talking about this moment ago, that just how sad it is. You said you're here with your young child, and just what is the reaction for you?
Oh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked and very sad. It's terrible.
Terrible to see this. Thank you for some moments of your time tonight, and I'm going to show you a little bit more of what's happening out here. So this normally, the shops in this area, Westlake Center, would be open till 8 o'clock, but instead you see businesses, their doors are closed, and we also, as you move up the street, you've got Sephora. I was able to talk with somebody who works there. They said they decided to close early too because they were just trying to get the employees out of the area, and for everyone's safety, they've locked up. And then just look down the block here, down Pine, and you can see the flashing lights. That is where the scene really begins. But of course, the ripple effect, you have all these businesses here impacted by it, all the shoppers being asked to leave this area, and as we try many doors on this block, they're locked. So again, normally open till at least 8 o'clock, but right now a lot of stores are quiet and a lot of activity just happening that way. I'll send it back to you.
All right, hearing from the mayor's office, but not yet from Jenny Durkin, but this is on Twitter 18 minutes ago. Please avoid the area. Seattle PD and Seattle Fire continue to conduct their investigation. Transit traffic both experiencing significant delays. Stay safe and be safe if you're in the downtown core. But nothing more specific from Mayor Jenny Durkin yet.
Let's go back to King 5's Michael Crow, who was in the area before the shooting started tonight. Michael, what were you doing in the area with your crew there? Megan.
Right, so that's kind of the surreal detail about all of this, is we were actually just a couple of blocks down 3rd Avenue at the scene of an officer-involved shooting, and police had just held a press conference there and finished up telling us that it was several officers from King County and Seattle PD were doing a narcotics operation, and a guy tried to ram their car, they said, and there was an arrest of that suspect. So we're wrapping up there, and then all of a sudden, we hear these shots ring out down the street, and then a couple of people kind of stopped and looked, because it's interesting. People describe shots like fireworks on TV news all the time, but it really sounded like that to me, just like a quick cluster of firecrackers. But everybody kind of paused, and then all of a sudden the sirens kicked up, and everybody started running down the road here towards it. We actually just jogged a couple blocks down 3rd Avenue, and we ended up right here on this corner here, and that is where we saw 2 shooting victims, one laying outside of that business, another person that had been pulled inside a business, both of them receiving aid from bystanders, and EMS were running to the scene. So a super active scene when we arrived here. It was, surreal is really the only word I can come up with. I've been at a lot of crime scenes in my career, and this is the most poorest one I've ever seen, where we were blocked off for several blocks, and then there were commuters, just hordes of people moving in and out of cop cars. It was just fascinating. It really, I think, speaks to how difficult it will be to track this person down, which is what police are working on right now, because there were hundreds, if not thousands, of people moving through this area at the time that this shooting occurred, which, of course, we now know that 1 person was killed, 5 others injured, the youngest 9 years old, per Seattle Fire, that is at Harborview right now. So that is an unenviable task, I think, as people look ahead and these investigators try to track down the person that is responsible for this act of violence in such a busy area.
I think it's the first time we've heard any ages, Michael. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say the youngest is 9 years old?
That is what we saw from Seattle Fire. They tweeted it out a couple of minutes ago. They said it was a 9-year-old in serious condition, is I believe what I saw. There was a list of the victims that we just put out on Twitter. We've heard some rumblings kind of here around the scene from people that there might have been a mom and son here. That's something that we haven't really gotten any confirmation on. We've just heard that rumbling, but seeing a 9-year-old among the victims of this shooting certainly reinforces that.
Just shocking. Thank you so much, Michael. We'll get back to you. Doing an extraordinary job down there covering this.
So the shooting happened, at least the calls came in right at 5:01. So there were dozens and dozens and dozens of witnesses to this shooting at 4th and Pine in downtown Seattle. 3rd and Pine. Let's go to Vanessa Mashani, who's been talking to people who were in the area at the time. Vanessa.
Hey, Mark, that's right. I'm at 3rd and Pike right now. Behind me is the McDonald's where the shooting happened. Right now, in front of it, it is just littered with debris. There's even an abandoned wheelchair in front of there. And I have been talking to witnesses, Mark, about what they saw. Like you were saying, a lot of people were witness to this crime. And one gentleman who was still in shock, still shaken up. He was in the vicinity. He was right by the McDonald's. He did not see the shooter, but he saw the direct aftermath. He said he ran away after he heard about 10 gunshots. He came back to the scene and started applying pressure to one of the victims, whom I believe was the one that is unfortunately confirmed dead. And he was saying that he saw that little boy get shot and those victims on the street, and he was very shaken up as he was talking to me. And then as I was talking to this man, another man came up and asked him if he had seen his daughter, because he was supposed to meet her in front of that McDonald's a half an hour before. And he had confirmed that the daughter was not there, but it has just been a very emotional day. As we have been saying, this happened at 5 o'clock, right in the heart of commute time. People still are turning around this corner that we're at, surprised to see crime scene tape. They're stepping out of their offices and coming up onto this scene. And it is a very busy area, pretty much always, especially this time of night. And to see it like this is shocking. I spoke to another gentleman who was at the kind of where we are. We're at 3rd and Pike, just a block away from where my colleague is, Michael Crow. He heard those gunshots, and he and the group of people around him ran into the nearby Walgreens for cover. So this is a lot of people in shock, dealing with what they saw and what they heard on a street usually filled with commuters at this time.
All right, Vanessa, thank you for that. So descriptive of what people are witnessing down there. We want to get to the hospital, to Harborview, where some of those victims were taken, and an update. We're learning more about some of those folks. Sebastian Robertson is there. Sebastian.
Yeah, we now know that the youngest, we're getting ready for a press conference here. We're moments away from getting an update from Harborview, who is treating at least 5 of the victims in this shooting. If you come right back to us, we'll have the update. What we know at this point, though, is that 5 of the victims, the youngest being 9 years old, one person died on the scene, the rest being treated here. So if we dip away, we'll have the latest from Harborview.
The condition of 5 patients, but let's go ahead right now to Susan.
Hello.
Hello.
Susan. Could you introduce yourself, Susan?
Susan Gregg, Utah Medicine spokesperson.
And what can you tell us at this point, Susan?
You know, we had 7 people that arrived to Harborview Medical Center. Some came via Medic 1, and then we also had AMR bring in 7. We have 1 female who is critical, and then we have a 9-year-old male who is serious, and the rest of the males are in satisfactory condition. 1 person has been sent to surgery, and the others are being treated and assessed for their injuries.
From a hospital procedure standpoint, what happens when you get an alarm of a mass casualty situation like this?
Well, unfortunately, we've been through this drill before, and we've had a lot of instance to prepare. I mean, we're the level 1 trauma center. We're 24/7. We have to be at the ready for any type of situation, and often we're seeing, frankly, a lot of gunshot wound victims coming our way. It's more common. It's sad to see. I've worked here 20 years, and it's sad to see the increase in shootings that are happening, and what it does to families, what it does to patients. It's not only the physical, but it's the mental when they leave here. So it's hard for me personally to see the increase and what it's doing to our communities and our safety and the fear that people feel on this issue.
Susan, were all of the patients shot, or was anybody hurt in another
They all had gunshot wounds, some very minimally, let's just say grazing to, more deep wounds. So again, you're going to see a lot of these people satisfactory. That doesn't mean they may still require surgery, even if it's satisfactory. It just depends, that's what they're doing right now. They're making that determination. The person that went into surgery, obviously, when you have a gunshot wound, that's usually what you're seeing. The more critically injured are going to be rushed right down to surgery. It's, stopping the bleeding and doing the assessment. So Harborview's here for the reason it is a level 1 trauma center. There's people there that see this, unfortunately, too often, and they get to be very good at what they do.
There's a very large police presence out here right now. Officers inside the lobby, all the patrol units. Can you explain that dynamic of why SPD has so many units here right now at Harborview?
I've seen that over the years. It's common. They're trying to get the facts. They're trying to do an investigation. They're going to be talking to families, I'm assuming, that come in here. So it's standard protocol. So it's not out of the norm from what I've seen in the past.
Susan, we had another shooting of a suspect, 3rd and Blanchard. Do you have any information on him?
That person is satisfactory, and I think that's what led to a lot of confusion today, because that happened, and then shortly after we had this other incident on 3rd and Pike, and there was some confusion over that.
Susan, can you clarify on the number of people shot today?
The people that Harborview received were 7 from the downtown Seattle shooting on 3rd and, I believe it was 3rd and Pike. So 7 people came in as a result of the downtown Seattle shooting on 3rd and Pike.
And is that including the officer-involved shooting incident that happened relatively?
That is not including with the additional person that came in off 3rd and Blanchard, who is satisfactory.
So you have the woman in critical, the 9-year-old boy, and then do you have 5 people?
And then we have 5 others who are all satisfactory and are males.
And those are all men?
And they're all males. So we have 1 female and the rest of the 6 are males.
Any connection with any of these people? Yeah.
Yeah. Is the little boy related to anybody here?
I don't know that. I haven't delved into that yet.
Is the little boy's parents injured?
I don't know. I just been talking about the 7 that we have. I don't know if there's any relatives associated that were injured as well.
So the one that was rushed to surgery was the 55-year-old woman, correct?
Correct.
What can we expect throughout the night?
You're going to see, some of these patients, depending on the level of injury, might even be treated and released, especially the patients that had a grazing type of injury. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, and then others will be admitted. It just depends on the depth of the injury and if there's anything that's required. Some people may need to be monitored, some might need further surgery, and some may not need anything at all and go home. So it's just a variety, and that's really where the doctors are right now in assessing that.
Susan, do you know if any of the people that were injured, were they tourists? Were they working? Do you have any information on that?
I don't have any background on what the situation is, and I don't think the police do either. I think they're still at this, assessment stage.
Was there any delay in getting the patients here with the traffic? It seemed like some ambulances were stuck despite going lights and sirens.
I have not heard of any delays getting here. I haven't heard that hindered any care that was, we have such a good system with our early responders and what they know how to do, and they were trained as part of Harborview. Many of them do their training here. So we have, the level of care from the early responders that gets them to Harborview. That's the beauty of this city, is the early response that they get and the care that they're delivered at the scene.
So Susan, just to clarify, there weren't any other victims, they weren't sent to other hospitals?
My understanding is, all the 7 came here.
Okay. Additional resources brought in for this event?
No, this is just, business as usual at Harborview. We have to be ready 24/7, whether it's 7 patients or 20 patients, and we've handled more than this. You have people here at the ready, and you just assemble your team, and really it's the surgeons you usually see, clearing the deck and making sure that we need to operate like we did with the Jewish Federation. Many of those patients, when they came in, I think the majority of them were sent down to surgery. When you have really bad gunshot wound victims, that's critical that you go right to surgery.
And are you aware, have some families arrived already, or many families?
I haven't had a chance to check in to see, but I'm assuming that many of the families are either on their way if they were stuck in traffic or not, but they will be here.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, right.
That was Susan Gregg with Harborview Medical Center, giving us a little more information into who was injured in this shooting. We know that all of the victims were brought here to Harborview Medical Center. It is a level 1 trauma center that is prepared, as she said, for incidents like this. Unfortunately, she says it's business as usual. We know that the ages and the injuries of the wounded really range. The big heartbreaking news here is the youngest victim, just 9 years old, and we know that at least one of the victims in his 50s was rushed to surgery. And again, like I said, the injuries really range. She says that it's possible that some of these victims that were perhaps grazed or sustained minor injuries could be released, and it could be a longer road for others involved. 7 injured in this downtown Seattle shooting at 3rd and Pine, all 7 being treated here at Harborview. Back to you.
All right, Sebastian Robertson. Joyce and I are going to hand the coverage off to Jessica and Greg in just a minute. If you're just joining us, we preempted all of our coverage tonight to cover this mass shooting that happened in downtown Seattle. Right about 5 o'clock, a gunman opened fire at 3rd and Pike, 3rd and Pine area in downtown Seattle. As you heard, 1 person was killed at the scene. 7 other people were injured. We don't know what the motive is. The gunman is still on the loose. Seattle police are looking for lots and lots of information. An important note, we did talk with a woman who said there was an altercation outside the Target store, which is to the west about 5 blocks before the shooting, said that a man was yelling at a car saying, "I'm going to shoot you, shut up, I'm going to shoot you." And it said it was 3 to 5 minute confrontation. The man was furious but threatened to shoot. She thinks that that's the same man that went about 5 blocks to the east up to the Westlake area and opened fire there.
We also heard from several witnesses, people who were helping people on the scene there, people who were wanting to attend to those who were wounded, who saw it really happen right in front of them. And we want to say thank you to the people who've called in to tell us they work in that area and they're concerned about their safety, and they are in that area every day. And also others that were very impressed with the police response. We're going to continue our coverage, team coverage from the streets of downtown Seattle. So Jessica and Greg are going to be right here after we take a 1-minute break. Stay tuned.
One person is dead, multiple victims, 7 people at Harborview Medical Center right now, and an active ongoing search for a suspect still underway. And you can see this was from a little bit earlier this evening where that major response was happening. As soon as those shots fired, and you see medical personnel there, some people going out on stretchers. Again, 7 victims in the hospital right now.
Here's what one witness had to say about it.
I was about 10 feet from going down into the light rail station, and I heard a series of pops, and then about a dozen pops. And I saw people running, and I saw bodies down. I wasn't sure if they were hurt.
Yeah, I was just sitting in the coffee shop at the corner of 3rd and Pine, and all of a sudden we just heard pop, 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 a bunch of gunshots, and everyone was just sort of stunned. And then everyone in the coffee shop went to the ground.
As you can imagine, still a frightening scene out there for most folks right now as they deal with the chaos and the aftermath of this, also creating huge problems for folks traveling through downtown. Seattle officials are telling people to try and delay their trips home if they are still at work at this hour. Seattle police say this is not an active shooting incident right now.
But they are still looking for that shooter tonight. The streets are closed all around the shooting scene. Let's get right to King 5's Michael Crow, who heard the gunshots. He was actually a few blocks away at the time. Michael.
Yeah, and that really is kind of the surreal detail of this all, is the reason we were down there just a couple of blocks that way on 3rd Avenue is another shooting, that one involving King County deputies and Seattle police. They said it was a narcotics operation where they actually ended up shooting at the suspect before they were able to arrest him. This, so far, we don't believe is related to that, but it was right here. We could hear the gunfire in the distance, and then all of a sudden heard the sirens, and people started running this way from that other crime scene. We saw right over here to the right, we saw personally just 2 shooting victims there receiving aid from bystanders and first responders. The number we heard from police and fire here was 6 people injured. We have now heard 7 from Harborview, and we're waiting for another update from police when they come back to kind of put those numbers into line. We do know that 1 person has died in this shooting, and the search for a suspect continues. I guess the silver lining in all of this, though, is we have heard about some acts of heroism from people after this happened, from a nurse who ran to apply pressure to the wound of a guy that we saw over there, and another guy that kind of was trying to run to help and just see what he could do right after these shots fired. But I think you're going to hear here from officials when they spoke probably about a half hour, 40 minutes ago now.
Let me tell you what we know right now. This evening at about 5 p.m. we got a call of shots fired at 3rd and Pine. We had a lot of officers already nearby. We responded immediately. We discovered victims at the scene in about a 1-block radius or so. Officers immediately started life-saving measures for all the victims that were there. Chief Scoggins from our fire department can give you more detail on that.
So we called a multi-casualty incident. That incident requires a pretty large response. We had a total of 45 personnel dispatched from the Seattle Fire Department. We had 5 engines, 2 ladders, 2 aid cars, 4 medic units, 2 battalion chiefs, and 1 deputy chief. And we were also assisted by American Medical Response. When our units arrived on scene, we found a total of 6 patients on scene. 1 of those patients was pronounced dead here at the scene, and the other 5 patients, we consider them red patients, which means that they're critical, so they need to get to the hospital.
Tell us anything about the suspect at all?
We just have a preliminary description of a male shooter. So we're looking for video and for other witnesses to see if anybody has more information they can provide to us at this time.
And you heard me ask that question there of Chief Best, if they knew anything about the suspect. They are not able to say anything other than to describe this suspect in this shooting as male. She said that they are canvassing the area for security camera video to try and identify this person. The other question, of course, is what could have motivated this shooting and whether there might be danger to others. The assumption, I would hope, in this area is there is not danger, because a lot of people are being allowed to mill around here despite the police presence. But certainly this scene has cooled off a little bit. You can see, a fraction of the cop cars here that were here when we first arrived, and it was really kind of surreal, the crime scene. All cop cars up and down this road, blocking both 3rd and 4th. But they weren't keeping people out. All these commuters, I mean, dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of people were just filtering through the cars as they tried to catch their bus or get on Link Light Rail to get home. So it has certainly calmed down here significantly. But that is the situation here. And I can't hear you guys, so I'm just going to send it back to you there in the studio.
All right, Michael, thank you. And Michael just mentioned how many people were in that area at 5 o'clock when a lot of people are commuting home from work or wherever they were for the day. And we want to go now to Vanessa Mashanya, who's at 4th and Pine Street, and she just spoke to someone who was also a witness to the shooting. Vanessa?
Jessica, I'm at 3rd and Pike right here in front of the McDonald's where the shooting took place. And you're right, this happened right at 5 o'clock. Right during the evening commute. Lots of people in this area. There were so many witnesses. I spoke to a few of them, and this man, Liam, he said that he heard the shots. He first took cover, and then he ran to go check out the scene. Here he is.
We heard 1 shot go off. We weren't sure if it was a bus running over something. And then all of a sudden just shots rang out, about 10 to 15 shots, one after another, like boom, 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 boom. And immediately after the shots stopped, me and about 2 other people ran back to the area and seen 4 people just laid out on the ground. We tried to apply pressure to one lady, and then the cops came running up and they started doing what they could.
He further described that one of the victims was a woman in a wheelchair who was shot, and you can actually see that abandoned wheelchair in front of that McDonald's. And it was just a chaotic scene. And when I was talking to Liam, you could tell that he was shaken up. I spoke to another witness who took cover in a Walgreens when he heard the shots rang out. Again, we do know that the shooting happened at 5 o'clock. We know that one person has died. 5 people are in critical condition, and we are still trying to hear word about that suspect, where that suspect might be. We do know that he's still on the loose. Police are still trying to find this person, and for now we're just going to keep staying here, talking to witnesses, seeing what they heard, and it's from what I hear from these people, that it was very tough to see. Not expecting that at all on a street that people commute on every day. Liam was just saying that he hangs out by that McDonald's all the time. Nothing like this has happened, according to him. So a lot of people processing what they saw here tonight, guys.
Absolutely, understandably. And Vanessa, I see that there's a bus there on the street near you. You also mentioned that the wheelchair part of that crime scene right now. So can you paint a picture for us? How much of that area is open, and what are police looking for right now? What kind of investigation is going on behind you?
Jessica, step out of the way. This block is closed off. These restaurants, these are closed. And these buses, you see them, they're all empty. And from what I understand from people who are commuting at this time, they got out of the bus when the shots fired and the police came, and they had to find other ways to get home. Now, in front of that McDonald's, we don't want to zoom in too much because what's in front of it is quite graphic. But we do know that there is debris in front of there. Again, that abandoned wheelchair. Officers looking for clues, evidence, anything to lead them to the suspect, who is right now still on the loose. Again, this has been blocked off, and I'm still getting people turning this corner, not expecting to see a crime scene. A lot of people still just leaving the office tonight, going about their business, going to one of the restaurants in the area and coming across this scene, surprised and shocked that the street they take almost every day is now a crime scene tonight.
Okay, King 5's Vanessa Mashanya. Keep out there. Let us know what you learn. In the meantime, let's get to King 5 Sebastian Robertson. He's been outside of Harborview Medical Center, and I know we had an update there, an update on the number of patients, and now we kind of have a better idea of who those patients are and the manner of their injuries or the conditions they're in. Sebastian.
Yeah, we know that Harborview Medical Center took 7 victims from that shooting. They range in age and they range in severity of the injury. We know that they were all wounded by gunshots, and they were quickly brought here shortly after the shooting, brought by ambulance, lights and sirens through rush hour traffic. We know that there's a 55-year-old female that is critical. She was rushed into surgery and is currently in surgery. We know that the youngest victim, just 9 years old, a boy in serious condition, a 35-year-old male is stable, 21-year-old male is stable, and a 34-year-old male is stable. That is the latest on the ages and conditions. As to who these people are, we don't know at this point. We don't know if any of them were related. We don't know why they were downtown. All we know is that they were caught up in this mass casualty event and brought here to Harborview Medical Center. We just heard from one of the spokespeople speaking on behalf of the medical center. She says that this is something, unfortunately, that they train for. They are a level 1 trauma center, one of the only ones in the region, and they are prepared with normal staffing to take on a lot of serious patients. They say that the staff here quickly assembles teams, and they divide and conquer as they try treating the victims, in this case, of a mass shooting event. It is possible that some of these victims will be released back home. That because the injuries really do range. While all gunshot wounds are serious, some were merely grazed by a bullet, while others with more severe injuries, at least one of those, 55-year-old woman, requiring surgery. That is the latest from Harborview. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Sebastian, thank you. We want to go back now and check in with Michael Crow, who is at the scene where the shooting happened at 5:01 earlier this evening, about 2 hours, 15 minutes ago, where folks are starting to show up now and pay their respects to these victims that were injured in the shooting, as well as one person dead. The very latest that we have, if you are just joining our coverage, one person dead. We have heard 7 people at Harborview Medical Center right now. So let's go ahead and check in with Michael, get an update on what's happening there.
Hold
Michael?
on 2 seconds. I want to hear it from you. Hey guys, yeah, so we're here with somebody that actually just stopped by to leave some flowers here at the shooting scene. Just tell us about what brought you down here.
I came down here, I catch the light rail, and I heard about the shooting, and that a 9-year-old boy went to the hospital, and I just thought flowers would be nice.
Yeah. So you didn't see it, but
I didn't see it, no.
It impacted you.
Yeah, of course it did. I come down these streets every day, and to hear that there's been 2 shootings just right here, that's horrible. That's horrific.
That's very compassionate of you.
I guess. I don't know. I've never done this before.
Thank you for doing this. Hey, what's your name, by the way?
Jamie.
Jamie, thank you so much. What's your last name? Olson, thank you. Jamie Olson, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. All right, guys, so we are here at the scene, though, of this shooting where we know, of course, that one person now has been killed. We've heard numbers that vary a little bit. 6 here from officials on scene, 7 from folks at Harborview. We are still waiting on that second update that police have promised us here at the scene. We are standing right now on Pine Street. That's 4th Avenue right there behind me that has opened back up. It was initially completely closed, and then over this way, we've got 3rd Avenue that does remain closed at this time. So, of course, we know, again, this is a fatal shooting. A suspect there is being searched for. Police are searching for a suspect right now. We are still waiting to hear more, but as you saw right there, that was Jamie that stopped by to lay these first flowers right down here. Let's take a look at them. She was just saying that she was compelled to come down here because she comes through this area so much, and she heard, as we have seen, that a 9-year-old boy was one of the victims of this shooting here at Westlake. So a act of compassion here in a not ideal day for a lot of people that have been down here, but it's nice to see people coming together. And we've seen that from other folks too. We talked to a nurse here at the scene earlier that just ran and rendered aid to a person that had been shot in the leg. She called his wife to make sure that she knew that he was probably going to be able to survive this, but he had been injured. We heard from another guy who kind of ran to the scene just looking how he could help as right after he heard gunfire. So certainly some acts of heroism here at the scene of the shooting in the Westlake area of downtown. But again, we are waiting to hear more about a suspect. We have not heard anything beyond that a search is underway, and that is what we are hoping to learn from police when they come back and speak to us right up here, hopefully sometime in the next few minutes. We have not heard an update. They did tell us 45 minutes just a bit ago. So we'll send it back to you.
Okay, yeah, Michael, I mean, obviously they have to scour. I guarantee you the police have been out there. They've picked up all of the shells that might have been left on the ground, so they know what kind of weapon they're looking for. They're obviously right away, you talked about all the people, the buses that kind of stopped. People got off the bus. They probably were trying to shut down any way for people to get out of town with the transit. And that really kind of shutting down transit and shutting down all the roads there, while an inconvenience, not as bad as what some of the people directly related to this had to deal with. It really affected a lot of people all around the downtown area trying to get in and out of downtown Seattle. Now, if this had been any other part of the day, it wouldn't have been as bad, but we're talking 5 o'clock is when the shooting happened, and in the half hour after that, the massive police response, all the streets that were shut down, the transit that was shut down. It has been a nightmare for people trying to get out of the area, and finally we're starting to hear about at least a little bit of improvement.
Yeah, that's right. So many people going home from work. And Michael actually early in the evening mentioned that there were so many people in the area as police were trying to lock down the scene. You can see here some video from earlier this evening, right after the shooting took place. They got the calls about 5:01. That's what Seattle police reported when they started getting the calls in, that this was a mass casualty event happening sometime in downtown Seattle. And this was the scene. As you can imagine, lots of streets closed off. And because there were just so many people in that area, perhaps making the investigation a little bit tough tonight as they try to track down this suspect that is still on the loose. And we're seeing some images here as people were put into ambulances, transported to Harborview Medical Center. That is where a lot of those victims are tonight. If you are just joining us, one person has died in a shooting in downtown Seattle, and we've been hearing 7 people transported to Harborview Medical Center. We want to check in with Sebastian Robertson. He is there at the hospital for us this evening. Sebastian.
We just got an update from Harborview Medical Center in the last 30 minutes here. They've confirmed that 7 victims from this shooting in Seattle, 3rd and Pine, have been brought here for treatment. This is a level 1 trauma center, one of the only ones in the region, and they say they're prepared to handle severely injured people, and a lot of them. Unfortunately, this time it is from a mass shooting in downtown Seattle. The victims range in age and in severity of the injuries. We know that all 7 were shot. The youngest, a 9-year-old boy, and the oldest, a 55-year-old woman. We're told that woman was rushed into surgery and is likely still in surgery at this point. On the lesser extent of some of those injuries, we know that at least some of the people here were perhaps just grazed by gunfire. We're told that some of them could be released to go back home before the night is done here. The concern, though, now is for the more severely wounded, and of course, that 9-year-old boy in serious condition. Those are their ages, but we don't know who these people are. We don't know why they were downtown. It's possible that some of them could be related, could know each other. Those are all questions that we're expecting to get answers to as time progresses here. Again, at Harborview Medical Center, 7 patients treated directly connected to that shooting at 3rd and Pine, all 7 injured by gunfire. Back to you.
All right, Sebastian, thank you. And Greg, you're going to give us a little bit more perspective now as we turn to you over with this interactive map that we have.
I'm going to see if I can explain to people, because if you don't live or work in downtown Seattle, it can be kind of confusing if you're watching from home and have an idea. You've been to Seattle but don't really know, but you know some of the key places. Most everybody knows where Westlake Center is. That is this area right here, right down Pine Street. Pike runs up here. You've got the waterfront down here. Pike Place Market is down here. Now, we don't know what exactly started this. And that shooting, again, was at 5 o'clock. We did hear from one witness who watched a pedestrian threaten somebody that he might shoot that person who was in a car. That happened down right outside of Target. So we're talking 2nd and Union and Pike. So right around this area. This is the McDonald's right here. So you're talking maybe 2 blocks over, 1 block up. And this was sometime before this happened. We don't know that they are directly connected. That is obviously one thing police are looking at. But if you talk about this route, that would make sense. Now, the shooting happened right outside McDonald's, but there were also some victims right across the street there at Macy's. And we talked about how Westlake Center was completely shut down. That just gives you kind of an idea of where all this is taking place if you're not that familiar with Seattle. So a lot of this area was cordoned off by police to basically start searching through all of the security cameras. They've got, I mean, consider the amount of crime that happens in downtown Seattle. And that has in the past. A lot of those stores down there have security cameras outside. I guarantee you they're going to be going store by store by store, trying to figure out who has what, and they have somebody probably looking at that right now to try to narrow that down. But just to give you an idea of where we were talking about, that is the area, the McDonald's right there along Pine and 3rd, and right between 3rd and 4th. So just to put some perspective there, Jessica.
All right, Greg, thank you. We should note to our viewers that right now we are awaiting a press conference from Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best. Hopefully we are hearing from police shortly. But in the meantime, we want to turn to Vanessa Machania. She is downtown. She spoke to someone who witnessed the shooting earlier. And Vanessa, right now you're at 3rd and Pine, or are you at 3rd and Pike?
3rd and Pike. Jessica, yes, that's right. I've been at this corner for a while now and talking to people coming by, and some of them were witnesses that heard what had happened. And one man I talked to, his name's Liam Reese. He was in the vicinity. He heard those gunshots and first took cover, then went back to the scene, and here's what he saw.
Generally in this area, like every day, it's not normally like this. It's never normally ever this violent. I'm born and raised Seattle, and it's never normally like this. I've never seen anything like this happen ever.
So Liam is someone who is on this corner a lot, and that was a different soundbite. But what he had described to me is that when he was here, he had heard about 10 gunshots. At first, he thought it was a bus that was backfired. Then he realized what it was. He ran to take cover. He was with 2 other people. They ran back to the scene, and he was describing seeing multiple victims on the ground in front of the McDonald's, which is behind me. We won't zoom in too close to show you the scene, but it is still very active. He was saying that he saw someone in a wheelchair get shot, and that wheelchair is still outside of that McDonald's. He saw a young boy get shot, and then he saw one woman on the ground in which he applied pressure to her, as he was saying, and I believe that is the one victim who is confirmed dead. And some other folks that I have been talking to today are just shooken up by what they saw here. This is a very active street. A lot of people here all the time. Gregg was talking a little bit about some of the issues that happen on this street. And this is something that, even with all the problems in this area, that a lot of folks have never seen before.
We are seeing your live shot here. We are seeing the buses that are stopped there on the street. You can see the yellow tape and the investigation underway. You showed us earlier that street closed off. And you also mentioned a lot of folks are turning the corner and shocked at what they're seeing. Such a large police presence and investigation happening in the core of downtown Seattle. Can you describe the reaction from folks as they are commuting home and perhaps they haven't heard exactly what happened?
People have been coming by here, Jessica, asking, what the police tape is for and describing the shooting. Their face just drops. People are very shocked to see that this had happened in this neighborhood. And, you think about it, this is a big street for commuting. It's a commuting hub, and people are leaving their offices, not hearing the news, and they walk down the street and turn a corner and come upon this scene. Now these buses, again, these are all empty. Actually, I think I might have seen a police officer or a transit worker walking on one of these buses. It kind of looks like a commute put on pause. As I was talking to a few people who had to exit their bus because of it was just gridlocked here a little earlier, and the buses, obviously, they're not moving through this area. This area is an active crime scene, so it was a commute unlike a lot of people have witnessed or been through before, Jessica.
It is a bit eerie to see that. Vanessa, I want to ask you a question about the mood there in downtown. If folks are staying away from this investigation, or if there are a lot of people in the area, because perhaps this is a large scene that police are still searching right now for the suspect, right?
That is correct. As far as we know, the suspect is still out there. Police are still actively searching for that person, and people here are still walking around the scene. People are still going into restaurants. I'm right across the street from a Ross store on Pike Street. People are going in and out doing their shopping. I can't tell you how many people have tried to get into this Chipotle behind me thinking that it's still open with their earbuds in, and then they see that it's closed and they realize that half of the door is in a crime scene. So it's again, you have your routines every day. You do the things that you do every day, and then when something like this disrupts it, it just knocks you off your train of thought and what you're doing that day. And it's very shocking to a lot of these folks who are just walking upon this scene.
Yeah, I can imagine. Vanessa, thank you. We'll check in with you throughout the evening, of course, as we get more information and as you gather more out there on the scene. Obviously making it a little bit logistically challenging for police as well in the area, trying to track down the suspect. At last check, that suspect's still out there, and a very densely populated part of Seattle. So many businesses there, people commuting through there, tourists in the area as well. It's a lot to deal with.
Right before dinner time, it's right when a lot of people were getting off work. So there was a lot of people down there right around that time. She was talking about the Ross store, and one of the witnesses down there had tweeted in that he was right there at the time, and he watched a police officer who was in the Ross store run basically across the streets. I think it's about a block and a half to the McDonald's. And he was the first one on scene. And this person had tweeted that he had helped that officer. And so police were on the scene right away, helping those who had been shot. But by that time, you're trying to help those people, not necessarily track that person down. So that person, the shooter, got a little head start. Hopefully they're going to be able to find him. We also heard from a gal named Alex Bennett. She actually heard the shooting. Listen here.
So yeah, I was just sitting in the coffee shop at the corner of 3rd and Pine, and all of a sudden we just heard pop, 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 a bunch of gunshots, and everyone was just sort of stunned. And then everyone in the coffee shop went to the ground and was like hiding behind tables and things.
And Alex, who you heard from just moments ago, spoke to our reporter Michael Crow, who was one of the first people on the scene. In fact, Michael even heard some of those gunshots. He was reporting for us on a different story and then hurried to get to where this mass shooting occurred at about 5:01 this evening. And so we want to check in with him one more time. Michael, we are awaiting police talking one more time, but we want to get the latest from you.
Right, and that is actually what we're all waiting for right now. Police tweeted just a couple of minutes ago that they have delayed the initial timing of that presser. We would assume that they're working to gather more information before they share it out with all of us. We are still standing here on Pine Street. Behind me there is 4th Avenue, which is open to traffic. Some police cars still blocking the turn here. If Megan Murnane takes a swivel here and looks around, that is the scene where we saw the shooting victims up here, media standing by. We don't have to walk that far up there. But that is where we saw the shooting victims when we were on the scene just a couple of minutes after we heard those gunshots earlier today. Police officers have been working here, canvassing the area, talking to witnesses, any kind of bystanders here, looking for video, because at last check they were still trying to ID this suspect. And that is what we are hoping to learn more about in this briefing that could be coming up any time now. Again, what we know, Megan, you can come back around here. What we do know is that they have delayed that briefing. We assume, again, while they gather more information before they share it out to us. That is what we're waiting on right now here, of course, at the scene of this fatal shooting. 1 person killed, 5 injured. We've also heard the number 7 come from the hospital. That is the other question. We heard 6 from fire officials, 7 from the hospital. We're hoping to rectify that when we get a chance to speak to investigators when they come back here in a little bit. But right now we are all standing by here, waiting for that update here at the Westlake.
Michael, I know this has been a fluid situation all night for you, and you have moved throughout this area, but can you give us an idea of what is cordoned off right now and what police are investigating, what they're focusing on at this hour?
Sure, I can tell you what we can see from here on Pine, because we don't want to leave and miss that briefing, but it is completely blocked up at 3rd Avenue. You cannot go up and down 3rd Avenue. You can see behind me 4th Avenue is open. You get a lot of buses and traffic moving that way, but you cannot come up this way on Pine. Initially, Pine was closed across 4th as well. That looks to be reopened now. But police have been asking people to avoid this area if they can. At the last briefing, they told us really that they could only describe that suspect as male, and they were looking for video of this to try and ID that person who has shot all of these people. So that is what they are doing right now. Certainly a markedly less presence of police here. That was a strange phrase, I'm sorry. There are a lot fewer police here than there were initially as the scene has cooled down a little bit, but still plenty of people working here to just figure out what happened and what led up to this.
Okay, Michael, and I know you will let us know as soon as police begin speaking there at the scene, so we will check in with you shortly.
Michael, thanks. Okay, so 7:34, and if you just tuned in a couple of minutes ago, we're 2.5 hours now into a mass shooting in downtown Seattle. And to give you just the nuts and bolts, this happened at 501 near Westlake Center, just down the hill from that at a McDonald's. There are 7 people being treated at Harborview with a variety of bullet wounds, at least 1 critical. The ages range from 9 to 55, a 9-year-old boy in serious condition there. And right now, police are still searching for the suspect. That's what we know right now. I should not forget, 1 person died at the scene. So we have 1 dead, 7 being treated, and hopefully they will all survive. But that just gives you an idea of what we're dealing with right now. A lot of streets were shut down. A lot of those are back open, some still closed, but police are right now gathering evidence, and they're still trying to find this person.
Yeah, and if you're just joining us, we should note it's no longer an active shooter situation, right, but they are still looking for that suspect. This
is an area of downtown Seattle that's had a lot of problems over the past few years. You've got a lot of drug use, mental health issues, and right now homelessness. And the businesses down there are obviously concerned with, especially with something like this. Yeah. Let's get to Angela Poe Russell. She takes a look at some of the crime stats in this city. What have you found?
Yeah, I just want to say first, I wanted to jump in because I was struck by something I heard during our coverage of this tragedy. And it was a man talking about, he lives in the area, and he said that it wasn't long ago that his partner was assaulted on the street. And then after this latest incident, just the anxiety that he's feeling and feeling like it's not safe. And so you just start to wonder how many more stories like that, right? I mean, in terms of people telling you, the businesses saying, look, we're experiencing this. So I did want to start looking at the data, and I'll just give you a heads up that I just started doing this research since this happened. But the thing I find most interesting when I look at the data from the FBI is that if you look over a long period of time, going back to the 90s, our violent crime rate is down. But the most notable thing, if you look at the recent data from 2017 to 2018, in the city of Seattle, we're seeing a nearly 6% increase in crime. This isn't happening in all of the major cities, mainly places like Denver, Portland, San Jose, Austin, Oklahoma City, but Seattle in the mix on that in terms of violent crimes being up. If you go back to just 2014 and 2015, if you look at aggravated assaults, we're talking 2,200 or so in 2014 and an increase to almost 2,400 in the span of 1 year. So this is just what I found, doing some research in the last few minutes. But the bottom line, over a period of time, violent crime is down. But if you look in recent years, there appears to be an uptick in violent crimes. And I just want to point out, I do not think Seattle City proper is alone in this. When I started looking in areas, other communities in the Seattle-Tacoma metropolitan area, I'm noticing some upticks in recent years as well. So I'll keep doing some digging, but I just wanted to at least share that with you as we attempt to make sense of the anxiety and, of course, the incidents that have happened tonight and in recent days. Absolutely. Angela, thank you. We'll check in with you shortly. We do want to talk a little bit more about the incidents that have happened in that area recently. This is an area that has had a long history of violence. Back in 2016, 5 people were shot outside a convenience store in the same area, 3rd and Pine.
Just hours before, there was another police shooting, just a few hours again, before today's mass shooting at 3rd and Blanchard. That was a few blocks away. Still looking for details on that one.
And also, even yesterday at Westlake Center, a man was shot in a stairwell. We have been reporting on that. He died last night. So this is obviously top of mind for a lot of folks. We heard from some people calling in today as this situation was unfolding, some people that live in the downtown core saying that they were alarmed, in fact, that there had been a shooting, an officer-involved shooting, and it has nothing to do with the shooting that happened at 3rd and Pine later in the evening. But there was this incident early in the day. Then there was a mass shooting. Just speaking to how much activity, how much police have to respond to acts of violence in the downtown core.
There's a certain element that police down there deal with every single day. I mean, clearly there has been a large increase in the homeless population, drug use, and often talking with police friends of mine, I mean, they'll kind of look the other way depending on what it is. But you've had a lot of other problems downtown that have been really bad for business. I mean, you talk about people you're talking about public urination, places smelling, all the garbage. It's just people begging for money. And you're going to have some of that in any city, but it has gotten the past few years here noticeably worse. And for a lot of businesses, when you start talking about a mass shooting, no, that doesn't happen every day, but it's added on top of everything else. It gives a lot of businesses some pause.
Yeah.
And, a lot of them closed up earlier today. Just, better be safe. And a lot of people were locked in those businesses for a while where they basically went into lockdown for a bit. So you had a lot of people maybe trapped at work or inside a business just at safety, but a lot of those have closed down as well.
Yeah, we want to check in with Natalie Swaby, who is reporting on the impact on those businesses in downtown. Many of them, as Gregg mentioned, closing earlier this evening, earlier than they would close because of this shooting that occurred. Natalie?
Yeah, we've absolutely seen that. First, I'll explain where we are. This is 4th and Pike. And if you're familiar with downtown Seattle, this is an area that would be really busy right now. People would be inside a lot of these businesses because usually they stay open until at least 8 o'clock, if not later. This is definitely a prime spot in downtown Seattle, but we're seeing so many things like this. This is one store, Arc'teryx. They have the sign, "We've had to close early because of an incident outside of our control. Sorry for any inconvenience," but they just list it right here that safety is their priority for their customers and for their staff. And just follow me here around the corner, And if you look down the way, we're not going to walk all the way there, but the Pro Shop, they had a similar sign saying, due to unusual event happening in this area for the safety of our staff, we have closed. A couple moments ago, I was talking with somebody out here. Her name is Chelsea, and she was definitely shook up. And that's because not just tonight, but last night too. There was another incident in this same area last night. There was a shooting. Now, of course, the events tonight talking about multiple people shot, and she got the alert today. They got an alert and a message on their phone that the building was going into lockdown. They would need to stay put. And now a lot of these people are just walking out here a little bit disoriented, like they've kind of been in their offices, kind of huddled, and now walking out to kind of this eerie scene. Now, as I walk this direction, 4th is open, but so many businesses are closed. As I move further down, earlier we were at Sephora, that's closed. We've got Westlake Center, and what they were doing there is there were still some people milling about, but they were starting to close all the stores, usher those people out, so that closed. And again, normally these businesses would be open until 8 o'clock, but everybody here taking the precaution for safety of customers and for their employees, trying to get them out of the area. But definitely hearing people tell us the sentiment here is it's just sad that here we are 2 days in a row, total of at least 3 shooting incidents happening in this downtown area, making a lot of people feel uncomfortable and unsafe. Reporting live in downtown Seattle, Natalie Swaby, King 5 News. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Natalie, thank you. And of course, we should note that police, when asked about it, said that these incidents at this point, they have no reason to believe that they're all connected, but certainly sounding the alarm for folks who either live or work or go through that area, which is so many people every single day,
Right.
Thousands of people. And not to mention, it is the area where tourists come to experience Seattle as well.
It's kind of part of it's the core. And if you walk up and down there from Pike Place up to Westlake, all the shopping area down there too. This is a really popular spot for a lot of people, and obviously businesses are going to be worried about the tourism shying away from Seattle. We did get a note from the Downtown Seattle Association. They released a statement on the shooting. This is what they wrote: "Our hearts go out to the victims of tonight's shooting in downtown Seattle, and we commend the Seattle Police and Fire Departments for their swift response to this tragedy. Criminal activity around 3rd and Pine has been persistent for far too long and too often has led to violence and innocent lives lost. The heart of our city should feel safe and welcoming for all who live, work, and visit here. We call on public officials to devote the resources necessary to improve safety in downtown and take back 3rd Avenue from the criminals who have laid claim to it." And there you have it from the Downtown Seattle Association, laying it out there for you about what they've had to deal with and a lot of businesses have had to deal with. Obviously not to this magnitude, but it's added to it at this point.
If you're just joining us, mass shooting happening in downtown Seattle, 5:01 this evening. 1 person dead, 7 people at Harborview Medical Center. Those are the latest numbers we have. We want to go to Michael Crow. He is at the scene at 3rd and Pine, awaiting a press conference from Seattle Police, and it looks like they're setting up right now and getting ready for that. Michael?
Yeah, hey guys, we're just hanging tight here waiting for this. I'm just off here behind the camera. We're in a big group of media just waiting for this press conference to start. Police have just come by and given us that 5-minute warning that they will be providing us with another update here at the scene. You are looking at officers standing by at the corner of 3rd and Pine as they prepare for this press conference, and a couple of questions that we're hoping to get answered here. First, if they have any more information to describe this suspect. So far, we only know that the suspect is a male. We are waiting to hear more about that. Hopefully, maybe what may have motivated this shooting. Those are all the questions that we are hoping to get answered here. We're just kind of standing by in a tight packed group here of cameras and radio and print media, all waiting to just get some more answers about this shooting that we now know has killed 1 person, 5 others at the hospital was the initial report from fire officials. We heard 7 total from the hospital. That's the other thing we're hoping to rectify here about the numbers that we've been receiving about the number of people injured here. But we are standing by at the scene. It has been very active over the last couple hours. Plenty of investigators, plenty of police working here actively to get more information about what exactly went down. So we are standing by here, and we will be back with you as soon as that update comes along. We are just waiting to see those police officers walk up to our cameras here and provide us with that update.
Michael, if you can hear me, we are going to stay with you as we await this press conference. I do want to talk to you a little bit about what you saw when you initially got there to report on what was happening. It's been quite a change of scene since 5 o'clock to now. We saw hundreds, thousands of people walking through that area trying to get away from the scene and perhaps making the investigation into finding the suspect a little bit difficult tonight for police. Obviously, we're going to get an update from them here shortly. But can you talk about what it was like at the beginning there?
Sure, it was a very, very chaotic scene when we got here. We were a couple blocks away speaking to police about a different shooting, an officer involved shooting there. When we heard the gunfire ring out down here and everybody started running this way. I am, again, just behind the camera here because it's a really tight group. There's not really a good place for me to stand here while we wait for this briefing. But yeah, a chaotic scene. I mean, we ran up here, we saw a guy that had clearly had a bullet hole in his thigh that was laying on the ground receiving aid from first responders and people that were just bystanders. A nurse went and applied pressure and actually called the guy's wife. I saw her talk to his wife on the phone. We talked to another guy that ran up just looking to help in any way he can before they closed the gates on the Westlake station when he was taking cover there. It was chaotic though. We saw at least 2 people in that area that were receiving aid that, I mean, they looked like what you see on TV, people laying on the ground, very upset and very afraid after what happened. We will get back to that later, though. You are seeing right now live these group of first responders, police, and fire officials that are walking up. I'm going to edge in here so I can get a microphone into this. There's a big group here, but we are just waiting on this update to come here from police and fire officials. So just take a listen here. Just stay with us because it's happening right now.
We'll get to it. You know, first of all, I want to thank you for your patience. Sometimes these things take a while. We wanted to make sure we got you accurate information, so the delay in that was making sure we had all the details that we could provide to you. You already know that we had a shooting here earlier in the at 5th and 3rd and Pine, that is. What we've been able to determine now is that this was not a random incident. There were multiple people involved. There was a dispute that happened in front of the McDonald's. People pulled out guns, shots rang out, people ran in various directions, and as you know, we had multiple people that were injured. Officers were here quickly. We've been doing emphasis in the area for quite some time now. We were able to quickly arrive to provide life-saving measures to those that we found and located at the scene. Since that time, we've had our homicide unit out here, our crime scene investigations, and our gang unit. So we've locked everything down. Right now, we're in the process of collecting any additional information that we can. Based on the forensic information that we've got so far, as well as video, we were able to determine that multiple people involved as shooters, and we're trying to ferret out exactly other details that we can get at this point. So right now, if you have any information, if anybody saw anything, if anybody was here and they fled the scene, we do have a tip line, 206-233-5000. Again, we've locked it down. We're going to continue to pull up evidence, and we'll have this cleared before the early morning commute. I'm going to turn it over to Harold Scoggins to give you an update on that he might have, and then I'll stand by for a few questions.
So just to give you a brief update, as I reported earlier, we transported 5 patients to Harborview. What we know is Harborview has reported receiving a total of 7 patients. So that means 2 additional patients have shown up. To give you an update, one of the patients we transported, which is approximately a 50-year-old female, she is in critical condition and she was in surgery earlier, and we do not have an update. And the 9-year-old boy that we reported that got shot also is in very serious condition. All the other patients are in stable condition. So that's the brief update on the patients.
So there's 8 shooting victims, then 7, and then the one person who was killed, Chief?
Well, Harborview is reporting that they received 7. We transported 5, so that's the piece we're trying to put together if 2 self-transported or got there by some other means.
But you're saying 7 does not include the person that is deceased?
That does not include the DOA that's still here at the scene.
Thank you.
Is there an active search going on, and are the suspects known to police?
Well, that's all information we're trying to ferret out right now. We're looking at video, doing all the forensic review that we can. If we have video available, we'll get that out immediately and enlist the media and the public to help us locate the suspects.
Chief, you said multiple shooters. Is there 2 or 3? How many?
You know, again, that's all detail that's kind of murky at this point. We do know from the video there were several people outside, shots rang out, a lot of people running in a lot of directions. So we're trying to figure out exactly how many people involved. We want to make sure we give you the accurate number. So when we have that, we'll provide it to you.
How widespread was this area? Between the shooting here by the McDonald's and the shooting earlier at 3rd and Lantern?
At this point, we have nothing to connect the two, but clearly we're going to investigate all aspects of each of these shootings.
What is your response now that there were 2 shootings in just a matter of hours, a couple of blocks away?
Well, what I can tell you is that we have had a number of officers deployed in this area, as you know, for some time on emphasis patrols. You know, we were working an operation in one area, and that ended up with the suspect, being shot by officers. In this area, this is a completely other event where there was a disruption and some sort of dispute, and shots rang out.
Chief, with the shooting victims, the number of shooting victims, so the number of shooting victims here, all of the people that have been transported, were any of them involved and also shooters?
Everything is possible at this point, so I can't give you a definitive answer. I don't want to speculate.
And then one follow-up to that, you talked about what may have motivated this a little bit. I mean, do you have any indication that there's a greater danger to the public tonight?
I don't see any future danger to the public. We've locked down the scene. There's no active shooting going on at this point. We have, as you can see, dozens of officers in this area. So everything is safe for the night.
Chief, this is such a central area. Did this person get away on foot, or was there a car? Did they go into the Sound Transit Tunnel?
I can tell you multiple people fled from the scene in all directions.
Thank you very much.
Again, can you clarify this is gang related?
I'm not saying that. I never said that. Sorry, folks. Thank you very much.
All right, here. So. Okay, guys. Thank you for sticking with us here. We just heard from Chief Carmen Best, who is not answering any further questions about this. Megan, just stick with me here. We're going to step out of here. It's a bit of a scrum here. You can stay on your tripod. I'm stepping off to the side here so we can talk a little bit here. But Chief Carmen Best, of course, saying we are working to still get more information on this shooter. We didn't really get a description here, but that is what we're learning here at the scene. We'll send it back to you. I think I can hear you there.
Michael, I want to clarify something. I believe that Chief Best said this was not random, although she couldn't clarify if the victims in this shooting were part of the confrontation. Is that correct?
That was my understanding of it, but I think you heard how kind of confusing that was. It sounded like there was an altercation that led to this, but you heard my question there asking if any of the shooting victims might have been shooters as well, and she said they're basically working on it. So.
Okay, it appears we lost Michael's signal there. Obviously very chaotic where he is right now. That press conference just wrapping up with Seattle police there at the scene.
So what we heard from there, here's what we learned is that now we know basically what happened. This shooting was at the McDonald's. It was right out front, not inside, and there were multiple people involved. Mm-hmm. She said that the dispute people pulled out guns, multiple, and then shots fired. Now, again, we don't know whether those 7 people who were transported, I mean, I highly doubt a 9-year-old boy is involved in this. It sounds like what you have is 2 groups involved in shooting at each other, and you had a lot of people hitting the crossfire. Right. That would obviously make more sense.
She did say multiple shooters.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got a couple of people shooting each other. You get not very good aim, and you got a bunch of people around there who got shot, and a lot of bullets just flying into random things. They're still trying to sort that out. Gang unit is on the scene, but again, we don't know whether this has anything to do with gang. But
yeah, they're still gathering a lot of information tonight. Still very much an investigation underway. She said they'll try to have that scene cleared out by the morning commute.
Okay, Vanessa, right?
Yeah, we're going to go to Vanessa Mashanya, who is at 3rd and Pike. She's been there throughout the night. Vanessa, what's the latest there? Or 4th and Pike. Can you give us your
Jessica,
location?
Gregg, and Gregg, to your point that you were just making about, people getting caught in the gunfire here. We just noticed this bus parked right at 3rd and Pike, and take a look at the window. You can see officers searching for something. It looked like that front window of that bus got struck by a bullet. It appears, again, we have officers searching the bus with flashlights, probably looking for shells, any other type of evidence. And this is just another detail we just noticed to really just prove the point that this happened at such a time that was so busy, full of commuters, full of buses. This is such a hub, and to have what happened, a shooting with multiple casualties, stray bullets. This is, it really speaks to the chaos that was what happened here at 5 p.m., guys.
Vanessa, what else can you tell us on the other side there? I know you said that there are people going through that bus, but as far as what you can see right now, right, the rest of the area is open apart from where those crime scene tapes are located, correct? Just we have
sure.
We're
So
running out of time
we
here.
just hopped over. We're kitty corner right from where we were. So I'll just show you quickly, if Emily, you can follow me. So here's where that crime scene tape is. Here's the buses that were stalled. And so we were just, again, kitty corner from where we were is where this bus that appears to have a bullet hole, and that is part of this investigation, it appears like. So again, this crime scene is going even further beyond the tape that we see here on that one block.
Okay. So you just moved down about a block or half a block. Okay, Vanessa, thank you.
Correct.
Yeah, I would love to know if they can look across from that McDonald's, see that McDonald's and see, because all of the investigators will be there and they'll put their little markers down for all of the bullet casings,
right.
All the shells that'll be down there. So I'd love to know. That might give us a better idea of how many shots were fired. It sounds like more than a dozen at least. And if you got some random, I'm sure they'll be searching for where the rest of those bullets went.
Yeah, explains also why we've seen a lot of investigators at the scene where Vanessa has been throughout the night, right in front of that McDonald's. If you are just tuning in, we have been following this breaking news situation throughout the night. A mass shooting in downtown Seattle, 1 person dead, 7 people at Harborview Medical Center. 1 person in critical condition, a 55-year-old female. The youngest victim in this shooting, a 9-year-old boy, is said to be in serious condition. Other victims are less serious, still hospitalized. And we know that police are still investigating at this hour. They are still searching for suspect. We learned just within the last few minutes that there are multiple shooters involved in this and that it was not a random shooting.
They're going to be working on this all night long. We did hear from the chief say that they don't believe there's any threat to the general public. There was a dispute between 2 parties, so this was an isolated incident from what we know. But you're going to have police there all night investigating every single aspect of this. Traffic has been a nightmare. Now we're not in the rush hour anymore, so they're going to have traffic open, all the roads open for the morning commute.
At 3rd and Pine and 3rd and Pike area, all in that downtown core area. So still a very large scene right now.
Our primetime coverage continues on King 5. We are going to continue our breaking news coverage over on Kong after a short break. Stay with us.
All the way down! Come on!
It was alarming, and I just saw terror on people's faces.
A gunman opens fire in downtown Seattle. Violence that escalates into a mass casualty event.
And then all of a sudden just shots rang out, about 10 to 15 shots.
I'm still kind of confused. I've just seen multiple people on the ground.
The shooting has turned deadly as several victims now fight for their lives. People are trying to make sense of it all.
This is America, bro. We go to the moon. We do incredible things. We can't solve this problem.
Now on King 5 News, the chaos during the commute as bullets flew and people scrambled. The manhunt after witnesses spotted the gunman running away. And the investigation as police try to figure out why this happened.
Good evening and welcome to our special coverage here on King 5. This shooting in downtown Seattle happened at 5:01, and here we are 3 hours later. A much different scene now, but let's give you a basic idea of what happened. We now know from a news conference just a short time ago from the police chief that this involved two different groups who had a dispute outside the McDonald's near Westlake in downtown Seattle. They pulled out guns, shot at each other, and it appears, and we don't know for sure yet, that several other people were hit in the crossfire. We have one person dead. 7 other people have been treated, or being treated, I should say, at Harborview Medical Center tonight. And right now, we don't have any idea. They have no idea on who the gunman or gunmen are at this point.
Yes, they are still gathering information right now. Homicide is out there, crime scene investigators, as well as a gang unit, all working on this investigation. 3 hours after this mass casualty event that happened at 5 o'clock at 3rd and Pine, the core of downtown Seattle. At 3rd and Pike, Vanessa Mashanya is joining us live with a little glimpse at what is happening as far as that investigation is concerned. Vanessa, what's going on at your scene right now?
Jessica, lots of police still on scene here. Again, 3rd and Pike. Behind me is a bus, and if you can see, as Emily zooms in, you can see in the top corner of that window, it appears to be a bullet hole. And police have been going on this bus, searching it with flashlights. There have been some activity around this for a little while now, and I do not know the details as to how this bus was involved, but again, you know, it speaks to the chaos of the scene from earlier, just where those bullets were flying, and how much of a transportation hub that this happened in. There are buses parked right along 3rd that can't move because they are in the crime scene. They were on 3rd Avenue when those shots rang out, and you can see here that Pike is closed at 2nd, so this investigation into this bus can go on. And there are still people walking around here. They can be in this area right here, but again, the breadth of this crime scene is quite wide, guys.
Okay, Vanessa, thank you. And we do want to apologize. We are in live TV coverage right now, so we can't control what's happening behind our reporters this evening, but we are trying our best here to get you the information as it all comes in. You saw that active investigation ongoing in downtown. We do want to check in with Sebastian Robertson. He is at Harborview Medical Center with more information about those victims. Sebastian, one victim as young as 9 years old.
One victim is 9 years old. The oldest 55 years old. A little bit of good news to bring you here. We just learned that in the last 20 minutes or so, a 49-year-old male that was grazed by a bullet, one of those 7 that were being treated here, was released, was able to go home from the hospital. We know that all 7 people treated here were shot by gunfire related to this incident at 3rd and Pine. Harborview Medical Center is a level 1 trauma center. They say that with normal regular staffing, they can treat an incident like this and do it efficiently. So a little bit of a breakdown of who's in here. Like I said, the oldest victim, 55-year-old female, she is in critical condition and was rushed into surgery. A 9-year-old male in serious condition, 21-year-old male is stable, and a 34-year-old male is stable. And an additional patient, that man that I just told you, was grazed by a bullet and released. All 7 patients hit by gunfire related to this event. At least one of those victims was able to be discharged from the hospital and go home. It though will be a longer night for some of the other patients in Harborview. Back to you.
All right, Sebastian, thank you. As we've been talking about throughout the night, Harborview certainly prepared for a mass casualty event. They are a level 1 trauma center, and of course, they are tending to those folks that still need aid. One person in critical condition, and those victims still being taken care of, including a 9-year-old boy. If you're just joining us now, we have been covering this breaking news in downtown Seattle since 5 this evening when there was a mass shooting at 3rd and Pine, right outside of a McDonald's. We just heard from police a short time ago saying that this was not a random act, and they are looking for multiple shooters at this point in the night. An investigation still underway, but they have said that there is no greater threat to the public. They have the area on lockdown as the investigation continues, but they don't think that the general public should be worried at this point.
We were talking earlier today about a witness had called in, or somebody downtown, and had said that she had seen somebody threatening somebody in a car, and it was within 2 blocks of where this area was, threatening to shoot them. And we thought, well, maybe that was somehow related, might have been some sort of mental health issue. We know you've got homeless issues, mental health issues, gang issues downtown. We know a gang unit is on the scene there tonight, but we don't know whether this was gang related. But this appears, it's not random. And that might be one small takeaway for the people who work and live and visit downtown Seattle. Maybe not. It's somebody with randomly is going around shooting people. This was a specific incident. Unfortunately, you've got a group of people or a couple people pulling guns on each other, and then it sounds like, and police have not corroborated this yet because they're going to talk with all of the victims, it sounds like most of the victims are probably were just hit in the crossfire, and they're the ones who are suffering from this tonight. But again, we have 7 people right now. Well, 1 who just got released, so you have 6 others at Harborview, and 1 person dead tonight because of this.
And so we just got that police update on the scene there at 3rd and Pine. That is where our reporter Michael Crow is standing by. He has been there since the beginning, shortly after those shots rang out. So Michael, we want to check in with you for the very latest there.
Right, so we just heard from Police Chief Carmen Best and the Fire Chief that were here, and they have answered a couple of our questions about that. Outstanding, though, is we still don't have a suspect description for this shooting incident down here at Westlake. What we do know is they've rectified some of the numbers here about the number of people injured. We were hearing 5 here, 7 from the hospital. Police are now confirming 7 shooting victims did arrive at the hospital. They believe they're all connected to this. That does not include the 8th person that was dead, that died here at the scene. So 8 people total shot. We also now know a little bit more about what led to this shooting. Chief Best described it as a dispute that happened up here on this corner that obviously turned heated and led to this gunfire. There's some discussion about maybe there were some back and forth there, and she was not able to tell us, though, of all the people that have ended up at the hospital or that 8th person that is still here at the scene that died, if any of them had a role, a violent role in that incident. So still a lot of questions. We are looking for a suspect description. That is what we have not heard yet from police. They are still working on that. We've heard previously they're working on getting security camera video, that kind of thing. But that is still up in the air, but you can hear a little bit here from witnesses that were here right on the scene right after that.
I was about 10 feet from going down into the light rail station, and I heard a series of pops, and then about a dozen pops. And I saw people running, and I saw bodies down. I wasn't sure if they were hurt. So I was just trying to get a fix on what was going on and what I could do to help.
Right. So what did you do?
Well, first I wanted to see if I could find the shooter and stop him. And then I saw that there was more than 1 person down. It looked like a few. So I wanted to find police. So I went down into the light rail station, and I found a couple police officers and directed them up here. And I told the security down there that what was going on, and they were notifying other people as well.
Right, and we can say right now, just an update, that these entrances to the Westlake light rail station are completely closed, both of them here on Pine Street. But you were talking about taking shelter, and kind of what was, when we spoke before, like what was going through your mind when you were taking shelter during this?
Well, like I said, the first thing I wanted to do was find out how dangerous the situation was and if I could help people that were injured. You know? And so I was looking around to do it, and that sounded like a very powerful weapon the shooter was using, so I thought the best thing I could do was notify police.
Yeah. Did you see anybody in the area that might have had a concealed weapon or something, or?
No.
Yeah, nobody that was intervening necessarily. And you don't carry, right?
No, I don't.
Yeah. I mean, just help me to set the scene here too, because when we ran up, we saw several people laying on the ground up there, receiving medical attention. I mean, just keep describing this for folks at home that are just kind of joining us here.
Well, it was alarming, and I just saw terror on people's faces. I mean, they were all running in this direction and heading down into the light rail station and into any kind of shelter they could and hiding behind cars. It was chaos.
Stand by. Right, so here is the scene here at 3rd and Westlake, where we've been interviewing witnesses and talking to police here tonight. The investigation continues. Again, we do not have a suspect description on who could be responsible for this shooting. Again, we do know a dispute led to this between two groups. We also heard from Chief Best that she believes it is focused and targeted because of that dispute. So she did tell us earlier that she does not believe there to be a lot of danger tonight to the general public going forward as the search for this suspect continues.
Michael, and I know you guys are kind of limited to what you can show and where you can be down there with some of that locked off. We did hear from the chief that obviously they were able to look at video. They've already looked at some video, and that's how they were able to basically figure out that this was a group of people or multiple people involved in some sort of dispute. I don't know whether that came out aside from the McDonald's, but I would gather from being down there, I don't know whether you've looked around, but I would imagine police are going through a lot of those businesses, and a lot of them probably do have some sort of security, given the history in that part of downtown throughout the years.
Sure. I mean, we've seen officers up here working and going up and down the street. I mean, that's a very busy intersection right there. And you also can't forget that this is an area where I believe SDOT has cameras even. I couldn't tell you what was pointing right there just off the top of my head, but I mean, you've got all sorts of security cameras around here. I mean, this is a very, very busy area downtown. I couldn't tell you what exactly would have captured it, but I mean, major corporations, big buildings all the way along the edge here. I would assume that there are probably some good angles of this if it happened right on that corner like we believe it did.
I know there was a lot going on there when the chief came out. Did she indicate that they might have any more for us tonight, or was that, and maybe I missed it, maybe she said that they weren't going to have anything until the morning?
They haven't said not until the morning because there were a lot of reporters there and everybody was trying to pepper some questions in at the end when she headed back. But we haven't heard when the next update might come, but we haven't heard that it will be tomorrow. So it could be again tonight. We just don't know yet. Right. But we have been seeing tweets from SPD that have been giving us updates about when new information will come out or when they'll do another briefing like this. So we're just kind of monitoring that right now.
Okay. Michael Crow reporting live for us downtown where that shooting happened, and police are asking for any information that you might have if you were down in that area when the shooting occurred. And they do have a tip line. It's small, but it's on the bottom of your screen there. It's 206-233-5000. So they are asking that anyone with any information give them a call because they are still looking for the people involved in this shooting.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with much more continuing coverage on this mass shooting in downtown Seattle. Stay with us.
7 people were hurt. We heard a short time ago one person has been released from the hospital. There is still one person in critical condition, and the youngest victim, a 9-year-old boy, is said to be in serious condition still.
This wasn't any type of targeted shooting where somebody was walking around aimlessly shooting at people. We now know from Seattle police there was a dispute among several people outside the McDonald's right there on 3rd and Pine, right down from Westlake Center. Both sides pulled out guns, fired multiple shots, and there were a lot of people hit in this. 7 people are in the hospital. One got released tonight. One other person is dead. But then you've got so many people at the time. This is rush hour. Yeah. A lot of people getting out of work. A lot of people coming into downtown to eat, and it caused a lot of panic, a bit of hysteria. A lot of the businesses closed very early tonight, and for good reason. King 5's Natalie Swaby has been down there the past few hours, and she's covering that angle for us tonight. Natalie.
Tonight we have been able to talk with a number of people who are in the area, people noticing businesses closed. We have several businesses just across the way from where I am decided to close early tonight. Normally they'd be open till at least 8 o'clock, but they wanted to get their employees, get their customers out of this area, make sure those people stayed safe. Now, we are getting updates tonight, as you mentioned, hearing from Chief Carmen Best, from the fire chief, and some of those numbers that you went over, a total of 8 people shot. And of course, right now, no suspect description to pass along. But we do want to go to a little bit of what Chief Best had to say a short time ago about what we know at this point. Just take a listen.
What we've been able to determine now is that this was not a random incident. There were multiple people involved. There was a dispute that happened in front of the McDonald's. People pulled out guns, shots rang out, people ran in various directions. And as you know, we had multiple people that were injured. Officers were here quickly. We've been doing emphasis in the area for quite some time now. We were able to quickly arrive to provide life-saving measures to those that we found and located at the scene. Since that time, we've had our homicide unit out here, our crime scene investigations, and our gang unit.
So we're here on 3rd, and Chief Best coming up to this area, giving us that update a short time ago. This is still part of the scene that's under investigation. While we've been out here throughout the evening, as our crews have been out here, we've been able to hear from witnesses who are in the area. Just take a listen to what this person had to say.
This is a part of the course. Drugs, alcohol, mental illness is all a part of it. And everybody else has got to navigate it. We got to navigate this. And thank God, most of the people on the planet I come across with, it's not a part of that problem. This is a small problem, but it has a big consequence, and people die for nothing. So, no, hey, look, I'm gonna get home. But the issue is that there's gotta be a damn solution to this. It's gotta be. Come on, we intelligent people. This is America, man, right? This is America, bro. We go to the moon. We do incredible things. We can't solve this problem. There's something wrong with that. There's got to be some money somewhere involved that nobody knows about that allows this thing to keep going because somebody's got to profit from this or it wouldn't be happening. That's just my opinion. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you. And you said that you and describe to me how difficult it has been to get home. What are you seeing traffic-wise?
What? Look, it's a gridlock. I couldn't get home. I was staying on the bus for a half an hour before I got off and started walking. Because I could walk home in 40 minutes from where I was. So right, yeah, I might as well walk.
You hear a lot of raw emotion there. We're hearing that too from other people who work in this area, frustrated because this is 2 days that have seen 3 shootings, one in the Belltown area, 2 right here in this area, and they just are feeling some of the sadness from that, some of the frustration from that, and obviously you're hearing a lot of those emotions after seeing what happened right here behind me at this scene tonight.
Natalie, this happened at 5 o'clock when so many people were going home. We heard from that man there saying it was total gridlock. Now, of course, not so many people on the streets. And earlier this evening, you showed us Sephora with a sign saying we've closed. A lot of businesses closing early, and a lot of those folks frustrated as well. So can you give us an idea of what is still open there or what's not? Because I know there's a ton of businesses there. Sephora, Anthropology, you mentioned Westlake Center as well that experienced a shooting last night. So what does it feel like there in downtown?
It really is an eerie feeling out here because we've actually been just walking around the perimeter here and checking on multiple blocks, and so many businesses are closed. The Starbucks, which is usually open till about 9 or 10 o'clock here, right, that main Starbucks across from Westlake Park, that's closed, and that's a spot that's always busy at this time of night. And then across the way from that, Nordstrom Rack is closed. You mentioned Sephora. So many businesses have closed their doors. It's hard to find one that's open. We were able, the main Nordstroms, the doors there were open for a time tonight, but so many other blocks that are close to this scene have decided to close, and they are putting signs on their door. And a lot of them say, for the safety of our employees and for the safety of our customers, we're closing tonight while this incident needs to be investigated by police. That also, though, is echoing what we've heard from law enforcement, asking people to avoid this area so they can be out here and do their work. But back to what it feels like, it definitely feels eerie. It's a very, many people keep saying the word sad scene out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Natalie reporting live for us downtown. We'll check in with you throughout the night as well. Thank you. And not only an eerie scene, but this has made national news. Folks from around the country with eyes on Seattle tonight, seeing what unfolded. We have learned this was not a random shooting, but still it is something that we've seen throughout the country and in the recent years, so many of these mass casualty events. And at this point, an investigation still very much underway. They do not have anyone in custody.
They're going to be out there all night long, looking at every little shell casing on the ground. We saw Vanessa with the bus. Anything that was in that area that we know 7 people or 8 people were hit by gunfire, maybe some of them multiple times, but there were more bullets fired than that. And
yeah, they're searching for any clue at this point.
They're going to be working it throughout the evening. We know, again, considering some of the problems Seattle has had down there, there's a big police presence down there, and they travel from area to area with those emphasis patrols. And we know there's a gang unit down there as part of this investigation. We don't know whether this is gang related. That's something that's going to come out. But again, they're going to be down there all night long. Hopefully we'll have some more answers tonight, but at the very least, I know we'll have some tomorrow.
Yeah, we're actively following the situation. We're going to take a short break, and we will be right back as we continue our coverage of the breaking news that happened in downtown Seattle. Stay with us.
today. He was covering a different story, heard the gunshots, went over there, and he actually saw one of those patients, and I can't remember, it was somebody with a leg wound, and he was
Yeah, and
right
he
there.
actually interestingly mentioned someone that had medical training, a nurse or a former nurse who went out there to help that victim. And we've been hearing so many stories like that throughout the night. People responding right away, officers who were in the nearby area running out to the scene to assist in this emergency that was happening in downtown Seattle. And then you saw those people laying flowers. So we are seeing some glimpses of compassion, of moments of just being human amid all of this chaos that was happening downtown in what has been a very sad day in the core of downtown Seattle.
And you might have seen numbers change throughout the evening, and that is obviously something that's very common in a fluid situation like this. We learned pretty early that one person had been killed. We were waiting for that to be confirmed. Now, the 7 injured, that number changed because, and you might have seen these numbers change throughout the night. We got word from the fire department early on that the fire department and American Medical Response had transported 5 people to Harborview, but Harborview had 7 people, and that's still something they're trying to figure out. But in the end, 7 people were treated for gunshot wounds, and they don't know whether they self-transported or a friend took them or whatnot. But in case you've seen different numbers throughout the night, that is why.
Boy, look at that response that initially happened this evening as all of those medical personnel and law enforcement showed up at the scene. And this was during rush hour as folks were leaving to go home for the night from work. A lot of people in the downtown area. This is at 3rd and Pine. You see someone being taken there into an ambulance and then being transported to the hospital. It was a chaotic scene, and because of all of what was happening there, police still investigating this. They do not have a suspect in custody, although they have told us that this was some sort of confrontation that happened outside of the McDonald's there in downtown Seattle, and therefore they do not believe there is a greater risk to the public tonight, but the investigation still very much underway. Homicide, crime scene investigators, a gang unit, all out there right now working to figure out who is behind injuring 7 people and killing 1 person. This is a homicide investigation tonight as well.
And that's going to be going on probably all throughout the night as they continue to gather those clues. We're working to bring you more interviews, more details about the story. We'll take a short break. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of breaking news in downtown Seattle. A mass casualty incident earlier this evening. 1 person dead, 7 people were hurt. 6 of those remain in the hospital right now.
King 5 Sebastian Robertson has been at Harborview for the past couple of hours and joins us now with an update. What we know, so we ran over some of these just a short time ago, Sebastian, but bring us up to speed on some of the other details.
Well, the injuries range in severity and the patients range in ages. We know that the 9-year-old patient is still in very serious condition in Harborview. Take a look at the graphic on your screen. We know that that 9-year-old male is in serious condition. A 35-year-old man is satisfactory. A 32-year-old man is satisfactory. A 21-year-old man is in satisfactory condition. Now, a 55-year-old female is critical. A 34-year-old male is factory, and a 49-year-old male. Here's the one bright spot in all this. That male was grazed by gunfire. That male has already been released and sent home from the hospital. I asked the communications director for the hospital what we could expect tonight, and she said it really varies because of the range of injuries. Like I said, that one woman is in surgery, though a few of the patients, or more than one of the patients, was at least grazed by a bullet. Obviously, it's never good to be shot, but to hear that one of the patients is grazed and is already back home, that could possibly be the best case scenario for a situation like this. Harborview is a level 1 trauma center. They say that without having to call in additional staff, with just the regular staffing, they are prepared to take on quite a few serious patients. They say that it's something that they train for, and they train specifically for mass shootings just like this one. We know that of the 8 people involved, 1 person has died. All 7 of the victims were brought here. Now, hopefully to clear up a little bit of that confusion, because Seattle Fire was giving a different number than the hospital. One of the theories from Seattle Fire is that 5 of the patients were transported by ambulance, and it's possible that 2 of the patients, perhaps those with the least serious injuries, were dropped off or were able to transport themselves to Harborview Medical Center. Again, we are not in the clear. A long night for many of these patients. Thoughts, prayers with that 9-year-old boy and his family who continue to fight here from Harborview. Back to you.
Sebastian, obviously a glimmer of hope there as we heard that man, one of those victims, was able to leave the hospital tonight. So thank you for telling us that again. Any word on how long? We know that the 55-year-old woman who is in critical condition, that she was taken into surgery. Any idea of when we might get an update on these victims as we go on throughout the night trying to get the latest information for our viewers?
Updates are expected to come throughout the night. The hospital obviously is very protective of his patients, but it is possible that we will learn more as we head into tomorrow. Back to you.
It was, as we're watching this video from Sky King right now, Sebastian, of the response, so many ambulances showing up there at the scene when this unfolded. You mentioned that the hospital does train for incidents like this, as we have seen the number of mass casualty incidents increase throughout the years in the United States. A lot of these level 1 trauma centers obviously prepare for these types of situations. Can you tell us what they said as far as their training goes and what they were prepared to undertake tonight?
Well, unfortunately, or however you want to see this, they said that this is business as usual for them. If that gives any indication of how well prepared they are for an incident like this. They said that they are able to divide their doctors and staff into teams, prioritize patients specifically for these mass casualty situations. This shooting also didn't happen that far from the hospital. Granted, it was rush hour. We asked if the heavy commuter traffic slowed down the response at all, and they said that they don't believe that was a factor, that the hospital was able to treat patients, the ambulances were able to deliver patients very quickly, and all the patients here accounted for, and as we continue to monitor their status throughout the night. Back to you.
Yeah, obviously would love to know where some of them are, where they're visiting, are they from here? And I know that's some of those details the hospital will release in hopefully a short time. Sebastian, keep us posted.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we want to head back downtown Seattle. Vanessa Mashania has been down there along 3rd and Pike, right near the scene, basically across the street. And I know there's been a lot of focus on those bullets and where they all went tonight. We know where at least several of them went at this point, Vanessa.
Yeah, Greg, that's right. We do know that one of them actually struck a Metro bus. Earlier today, we saw investigators on board one of those buses with flashlights looking for clues and what appeared to be a bullet hole right in the front window of that bus. It has since been taken away, but it really gave you an idea of just the randomness and chaos that broke out at 5 o'clock when those shots started to ring out. And I talked to one man. His name is Liam, and he was there for the aftermath of it, and he was just in shock that it happened in his neighborhood. Take a listen.
Generally in this area, like every day, it's not normally like this. It's never normally ever this violent. I'm born and raised Seattle, and it's never normally like this. I've never seen anything like this happen ever.
Again, just the chaotic moments of that event are hard to process for folks that, you know, you come here every day, it's part of your routine, and then all of a sudden it is so drastically shaken. And I want to step out of the way. We do have a view of the McDonald's where the investigation is still very much ongoing. Police on the scene looking for evidence. Again, to recap, 1 person has died, 7 have been injured, and the suspect in this is still on the loose. We do not have a lot of answers as to where that person is or the motive behind it, but we are staying here and staying on top of it and trying to learn as much as we can, guys.
Vanessa reporting downtown for us. Thank you. And we should note for our viewers that at this point, police they believe there were multiple shooters involved in this, some sort of confrontation that got out of hand. And then we have 1 person dead, multiple people hurt. We're going to check in with Vanessa throughout the night. But right now, we do want to show you the response that we got here from the Downtown Business Association. It says, our hearts go out to the victims of tonight's shooting in downtown Seattle, and we commend the Seattle Police and Fire Departments for their swift response to this tragedy. Criminal activity around 3rd and Pine has been persistent for far too long and too often has led to violence and innocent lives lost. Echoing certainly the feeling of so many people. They go on to say, the heart of our city should feel safe and welcoming for all who live, work, and visit here. We call on public officials to devote the resources necessary to improve safety in downtown and take back 3rd Avenue from the criminals who have laid claim to it. So some strong words there. And it's certainly a sentiment that we've heard throughout the night from a lot of folks who either work or commute through the downtown core.
Right, jarring, and a lot of people would be talking about the rest of the week, if not longer. I wanted to let you know that Governor Inslee also has made a statement. I'm going to read that for you. It says, I am horrified and dismayed to hear about the shooting in Seattle tonight. We grieve for the 1 individual confirmed dead in the shooting and wish a full and speedy recovery to those who were injured. And goes on to say, I know Seattle police are doing everything they can to find the perpetrator, and I join Mayor Durkin and Chief Best in urging anyone with possible information in the shooting to call the tip line. And we shared that with you. It's 206-233-5000. And obviously a lot of people were downtown tonight, so maybe you're just getting home, sitting down, turning on the TV, recuperating from what you witnessed down there. But if you saw anything, heard anything, police are asking for any sort of tips.
Yeah, that number there on the bottom of your screen, just one more time for folks at home, 206-233-5000. We are going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We continue our breaking news coverage of a mass shooting that happened in downtown Seattle. The calls came in about 5:01 this evening. One person killed, 7 hurt in the shooting.
You can see here, what we know so far is that this is one gunman reported on there, but I know at this point now we can update that graphic. We know from the police chief that at least 2 parties were involved. This happened outside the McDonald's, and from looking at surveillance video, they have been able to discern that people pulled guns. There was a dispute. They pulled guns on each other, fired multiple rounds, and took off. We know one person was shot dead at the scene. Don't know whether that person was involved or whether that was a bystander. And we know that 6 or 7 other people were also hit by bullets and wound up at Harborview Medical Center. A couple, at least one of those, is in critical tonight, one in serious, and one was able to be treated and released tonight. So a little bit of good news there, but we know this was not random. A dispute led to gunfire, and unfortunately happened at 5 o'clock when you've got a ton of people downtown. This is at the McDonald's right down the hill from Westlake Center. So it's a packed area at that time of night, even
you
with
have
this weather.
Shops there, you have tourists there, you have commuters going through the heart of downtown. We should note that those victims, one as young as 9 years old, they range in age from 9 years old to 55-year-old female in critical, a 9-year-old boy in serious condition tonight, and also other victims ranging in age in between there. And right now, still very much an active scene. They're going to be out there all night. They're urging you to avoid the area if you are going through downtown. Homicide teams, crime scene investigators, as well as a gang unit out there right now, all part of this investigation.
And that's pretty much the only people besides reporters who were out there. It feels like after there had been one of those huge protests in downtown Seattle where it's kind of a ghost town. Let's get out to King 5's Natalie Swaby, who's out there right now. How would you describe it, Natalie?
Well, yeah, you just said the word ghost town, and it's really quiet on this street right now because so many people have taken the warning to get out of the area and let police do their work, and that is what's happening now as this investigation into this mass shooting is approaching into its 4th hour. I'm going to look, I hear sirens, and I think what I see here, just a fire truck approaching on scene. And I'll walk around and show you kind of the scene. You can see there's still plenty of activity. There's a police car moving down the way, a fire truck here, and don't know exactly what they're looking into over there, but this scene, it's really just law enforcement out here. A lot of people have listened to the word to get out of the area. So let's recap a little bit what we know. It was 5:01 tonight when that 911 call came in about this shooting. As you've been talking about the numbers, a total of 8 people shot, 1 person dead, 7 hurt, including that 9-year-old. And we are hearing tonight, not random, that this was multiple shooters involved, but no suspect description to pass along at this point and no arrest made at this point. I want to go to what Chief Carmen Best had to say a little while ago about the evidence and the tips that they're hoping to receive from the public.
Based on the forensic information that we've got so far, as well as video, we were able to determine that multiple people involved as shooters, and we're trying to ferret out exactly other details that we can get at this point. So right now, if you have any information, if anybody saw anything, if anybody was here and they fled the scene, we do have a tip line, 206-233-5000. Again, we've locked it down. We're going to continue to pull up evidence, and we'll have this cleared before the early morning commute.
So, of course, all of this happened during the evening commute when lots of people were out and about, and we had lots of witnesses who either heard or saw what happened. We also heard from Dan Conroy, somebody who just lives in this area. Listen to what he had to say.
In the last 2 days, we've had 2 shootings within a block of Westlake Park. So to me, that's a big change from norm. And I think what we need is to have a greater police presence around the city.
Yeah, Dan was is talking with me specifically about the area across the way, Westlake Park, and that's not too far from where he lives. And yes, he is talking about the fact that yesterday in that area there was a shooting, and then again today dealing with this. And he is saying that it would be great if he could see more police presence in this area on a very consistent basis. But he says he doesn't know what all the answers are to a problem like this, but that's just one thing that came to mind for him tonight. Now, we also want to tell you that we heard from people who work in this area who were put on lockdown tonight. Basically, their businesses had them stay in place until it was safe for them to come out. Also saw plenty of storefronts that closed their doors early, put signs on the front door saying for the safety of customers and safety of employees, we just need to close down tonight and let police come out here and do their investigation. Back to you.
Speaking of doing that work and the investigation, Natalie, I see the street behind you. That's open. Is that 4th Avenue behind you?
Yeah, that's right. So 4th is open. I'm going to show you the scene a little bit more, and we'll kind of spin around here. Photographer Tim Hahn working with me, and we can show you back this way is 3rd Avenue. You can see, just to get a better sense of where we are, this is right next to Macy's and also next to Westlake Station. And you can see the gate down tonight, of course, while they are still having this investigation in this area. But this area back here along Pine and 3rd, expecting this to be closed for quite some time, because you were talking about that McDonald's earlier, and of course that's just over my shoulder right here. So this is the area you should expect some streets to be closed throughout this area for a while. You heard Chief Carmen Best say there, probably until the early morning commute. Back to you.
And just real quick, Natalie, if Tim can turn the camera, is Westlake Center, the Westlake Station closed? I saw the grate down, I think.
Okay, oh yes. Okay, so right here, this Westlake Station gate is closed. But if you travel further down on Pine, there's other parts where you can still get in to this area, but right in this area, these two gates are closed right here near the 3rd and Pine. Nobody able to go in at these entrances.
Okay, good to know for anyone who might be heading through that area.
Interesting to hear from that man who lived downtown, Natalie. And I think a lot of people sitting at home tonight who have spouses or other loved ones who work downtown and have seen these problems grow over the past, not just several months, but several years, and wondering, is it safe downtown? Mm-hmm. You've got the Downtown Seattle Association coming on saying, hey, we need to fix this problem. And I know that Seattle police have their emphasis patrols. They have beefed those up. But I'd love to hear from the mayor tonight to say, is enough being done in downtown? And I'd be curious what more witnesses or more people downtown who live and work downtown would have to say about that, because there seems to be an uneasy feeling for a lot of people.
Yeah, and Natalie, we're going to let you go here as that investigation continues. Just real quick before we do, I know you mentioned the sign that you saw in a business earlier. It said something along those lines of safety for their employees was the reason they closed down, right?
Yeah, actually, I saw that echoed in several businesses. They put signs out about safety, but one in particular caught my eye because it was the Pro Shop, and it's actually a place where I've done stories downtown before because they've had concerns about safety before. And their sign was worded to say, because we are concerned about the safety of employees and customers, we are closing. And I just, that did catch my eye because we've done stories where they've brought up other issues in the past. But they're not the only ones. Lots of businesses have those signs on their doors tonight.
Yeah. A lot of people talking tonight. All right, King 5's Natalie Swaby in downtown Seattle. We'll take a short break. Be back right after this.
Welcome back. We continue our coverage of breaking news. We have been with you since 5 this evening on both King and Kong, bringing you the very latest on this mass casualty incident that happened in downtown Seattle, at the core of downtown Seattle at 3rd and Pine. 1 person killed, 7 others hurt and transported to Harborview Medical Center. 5 of those transported. 2 other victims showed up at the hospital as well. There are believed to be multiple shooters in this incident as we continue to see some of this video that we have from earlier tonight. As soon as those shots rang out and the response police first responders were out there, you can see what a large police presence this was throughout the night tonight. They're still out there.
So many people downtown during that area, either still at work trying to get home or coming into the city or maybe going out to dinner. And there were a lot of people who heard the gunshots and just a lot of people who witnessed what was going on. Alex Bennett was one of them.
I don't know if we have that sound.
He was just so upset, and he was just like, his leg, you know, and then once the police came, they were putting a tourniquet on his leg, and he was just like I mean, he was crying because it hurt, and he was like, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, and I just told him, like, you're not going to die, you're going to be okay, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And, like, really, I think once he heard that, he actually felt better.
You know, we focus quite a bit on the tragedy, and it is a tragedy anytime you have something like this. But what I think is going to come out tomorrow and the next day, you're going to hear more of these stories of the people who stepped in, like I know from one witness, there was a cop in the Ross who ran out, was first on scene. The amount of people who jumped in to help and treat those wounded and make sure they were going to be okay. I think those are the stories I hope we can tell in the next couple of days. Yes, we need to find the people who opened fire. That just can't happen in downtown. It's just unfortunate, but these other stories need to be told as well.
And that woman we just heard from, Alex Bennett, I was listening to her interview earlier this evening with our reporter Michael Crow, and she was describing the sheer panic and chaos that ensued right after those shots rang out, people hiding under chairs in the coffee shop that she was in. But then, as you mentioned, Greg, her response as a former nurse, she mentioned that she went out to try to help some of these victims, but a security guard was there, and she said, all I did was focus on keeping that person calm, which obviously was such a chaotic situation for so many people, especially those folks too who may not have gotten hit by a bullet, but were in that area, saw all of this unfolding. They are dealing with trauma tonight as well, being caught up in such a difficult situation, something that, you know, we hope that we will never be a part of.
Today's the tough story, but a lot of, like I say, a lot of good stories, I think, in the days to come. And I hope people involved who were helping will let us help tell the stories, because there are going to be a lot of them. One other person who witnesses, and people were all over the area. People heard the shooting because there were multiple shots from blocks away. One of them was Liam Reese.
Basically, at first, we heard one shot go off. We weren't sure if it was a bus running over something. And then all of a sudden, just shots rang out, about 10 to 15 shots, one after another, like boom, 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 boom. And immediately after the shots stopped, me and about 2 other people ran back to the area and seen 4 people just laid out on the ground. We tried to apply pressure to one lady, and then the cops came running up and they started doing what they could. There's a hole in front of the window in McDonald's, a giant hole. It's ridiculous.
Do you think someone shot into the McDonald's?
I mean, so apparently they were at the corner and they were arguing with somebody else for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then that person pulled a gun and started shooting, and then they ran, and apparently they went across the street because there was bullet casings lining across the street, and the cops were cordoning people off so they could pick up all the bullet casings. They ran sideways down this way. That's really all I know.
And how many people did you see?
Apparently 6 got hit. 1 kid got hit in the leg, and then 2 females, and the rest are males.
Are you at this McDonald's a lot in this area?
Yeah, I'm generally in this area like every day. It's not normally like this. It's never normally this violent. I'm born and raised Seattle, and it's never normally like this. I've never seen anything like this happen ever. You know, it's craziness.
How are you doing after seeing
I mean, doing all right, you know, just still shook up, just like, you know, luckily me or none of my friends got shot, you know, we're all good, but it's crazy.
Yeah, visibly shaken. And it's strange actually listening to that interview one more time. definitely witnessing exactly what happened. Police confirming to us it was some sort of confrontation in front of that McDonald's that ended with violence.
And they've seen some of the video. They were able to look at some of that video and say, okay, now we have a basic idea of what happened. They're going to be casing that area. They'll be looking at a lot more video from a lot of other security cameras, trying to get a better idea and seeing if they can track where these people went, and hopefully be able to catch them shortly.
Police are asking anyone out there with any information, if you saw any of this, if you saw anything suspicious at all that might help police, they're asking you to call. There's a tip line set up. It's at the bottom of your screen, 206-233-5000. They are still looking for the people involved in this shooting tonight.
We're going to organize our thoughts, take a short break. We'll be back with much more coverage of this downtown shooting in just a couple minutes.
Thank you for being with us. Stay safe tonight. Thanks, Ruben.
We begin with some breaking news tonight, the latest on that deadly shooting in downtown Seattle that hurt multiple people.
We have team coverage tonight with several crews live in downtown Seattle. We want to begin with Natalie Swaby. Natalie, walk us through exactly what happened.
Well, right, we are now into the 4th hour of this investigation. It started when it was still light out. 5:01 is when that 911 call did come in. I'm going to step out of the way. We're going to take a closer look at the shooting scene, which you can see this is an area that's been closed for a while. This is near 3rd and Pine. And what we've been able to learn is a total of 8 people were shot after some sort of dispute altercation happened at the McDonald's there on the corner. We know of the 8 people shot, 1 person has died, 7 were hurt, including a 9-year-old. Now, at this point, no arrests have been made, and we are hearing from police that this does not appear to be random, that there were multiple shooters involved, but right now, there's no description of those shooters to pass along. Chief Carmen Best did talk a while ago about what they've been able to learn about the shooting so far. Just listen.
What we've been able to determine now is that this was not a random incident. There were multiple people involved. There was a dispute that happened in front of the McDonald's. People pulled out guns, shots rang out, people ran in various directions. And as you know, we had multiple people that were injured. Officers were here quickly. We've been doing emphasis in the area for quite some time now. We were able to quickly arrive to provide life-saving measures to those that we found and located at the scene. Since that time, we've had our homicide unit out here, our crime scene investigations, and our gang unit.
All right, and going back to the time of day, that was right around 5 o'clock, right around the evening commute. So this area, this road would be packed with commuters, also people still at work. So lots of witnesses in the area. And we did talk to one person, Douglas Converse. He talked about what he saw after he heard the gunfire.
It was alarming, and I just saw terror on people's faces. I mean, they were all running in this direction and heading down into the light rail station and into any kind of shelter they could and hiding behind cars.
All right, back out live. I'm just going to show you this area to give you a better sense of where we are. So this is Pine, near 3rd. This is right near the Macy's, right near the Westlake station. You can see the gates are down at this particular Westlake station in the area of Pine and 3rd. And we can tell you that this area is closed off, but 4th Avenue is open. Traffic is moving along that way, but this is going to remain closed. The police chief telling us that it could stay closed overnight, probably opening before the morning commute, but a lot of investigating still to do at this scene. Again, we do know that they believe there was possibly multiple shooters involved. No suspect description, no arrest yet at this point. Back to you.
Natalie Swaby reporting live for us downtown. Natalie, thank you. And as we've mentioned, several people are hurt. Their conditions range from critical to stable.
Let's get King 5 Sebastian Robertson. He's live at Harborview Medical Center with more on how those victims are doing tonight with what we know so far anyway. Sebastian.
Good evening. Let's start with some good news. We know that a 40-year-old man that was grazed by a bullet has been released. He'll be spending the night at home versus in the hospital. 7 victims, all hit by bullets, taken here to the Harborview Medical Center. Harborview is a level 1 trauma center. They say that with standard, normal staffing, like any given day, they can deal with a high number of people like you would expect to see in a mass casualty situation like this. We got an update from the Harborview Director of Communications within the last couple of hours. Here's what she had to say about this ongoing situation.
Some of these patients, depending on the level of injury, might even be treated and released, especially the patients that had a grazing type of injury. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And then others will be admitted. It just depends on the depth of the injury and if there's anything that's required. Some people might need to be monitored. Some might need further surgery, and some might not need anything at all and go home.
Now let's look at the patients and their conditions. A 9-year-old boy. A 35-year-old male is satisfactory, 32-year-old male satisfactory, 21-year-old male satisfactory, and a 55-year-old female is critical. She's the one that was rushed into surgery. There's also a 34-year-old male satisfactory and a 49-year-old male who, as I said, was treated and released. So much attention now is on that 9-year-old boy that was shot. He is in for a long night. As so many thoughts and prayers have been coming towards this hospital, his direction, as they hope for a speedy recovery. Again, the injuries here range in age and in severity, and a lot will be telling in the coming hours at Harborview Medical Center. Back to you.
A long night ahead for those folks. Sebastian, thank you. Of course, they are in good hands. Harborview Medical Center is a level 1 trauma center. As Sebastian mentioned, they are prepared for these situations, but also what comes after.
Well, unfortunately, we've been through this drill before, and we've had a lot of instance to prepare. I mean, we're the level 1 trauma center. We're 24/7. We have to be at the ready for any type of situation, and often we're seeing, frankly, a lot of gunshot wound victims come in our way. It's more common. It's sad to see. I've worked here 20 years, and it's sad to see the increase in shootings that are happening and what it does to families, what it does to patients. It's not only the physical, but it's the mental when they leave here.
Well, as we've heard, hundreds, if not thousands of people were downtown tonight as all of this unfolded, right as people were headed home for the day.
King 5's Vanessa Mashanya is live for us at 3rd and Pike. You've been there throughout the night, Vanessa, and you spoke with some witnesses.
Jessica, Gregg, yes, that's right. 3rd and Pike, right behind me is the McDonald's. You can tell that the crime scene has been a little less active. Still a lot of police officers here conducting their investigation, but it has started to quiet down a little. But when this shooting happened, it was 5 o'clock. It was right near a transit hub, and I want to show you this video, and you could just kind of get a glimpse of the chaos, the aftermath of that. Now, this is a bus being investigated by police with an apparent bullet hole right in the driver's side window. This was a terrifying scene for a lot of folks who were just going about their business, trying to get home from work. I spoke to one man, Liam, who said he heard gunshots. Take a listen.
We heard one shot go off. We weren't sure if it was a bus running over something. And then all of a sudden just shots rang out, about 10 to 15 shots, one after another, like boom, 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 boom. And immediately after the shots stopped, me and about 2 other people ran back to the area and seen 4 people just laid out on the ground.
Right. But the deal of it is, this is 3rd Avenue. We got a lot of issues. We got a lot of mental health issues. We got a lot of drug issues. There's people selling drugs right down the street. All right. So all of this stuff is why we having this. All right. I don't know why the police can't clean it up. I have no idea. But I know this is unacceptable.
That last man that you heard, his name was Glenn. I talked to him about this situation, and he was just so upset that it got to this level. Now, this area is beginning to be notorious for crime. It doesn't have a great reputation right now. And the fact that something like this boiled over, now we don't know exactly the events leading up to it, but a lot of the people here that I spoke to were putting the pieces together and are just sick of crime in this area and in this city, guys. A lot of upset people and a lot of people in shock that it got to this level.
Yeah, so many people down there at that time. Somebody had to have seen something. Vanessa, thank you. To give you some perspective here, this is an area that's had a long history of violence. Back in 2016, 5 people were shot outside a convenience store in that same area right along 3rd and Pine. And tonight, just an hour and a half before this incident, there was another police shooting, that one at 3rd and Blanchard, which is a few blocks away. And then yesterday at Westlake Center, a man was shot in a stairwell. He died last night. Our coverage continues on air and online. You will find more information on tonight's breaking news on our website, king5.com.
And we return with extended coverage in just a few minutes. You're watching King 5 News. A quick update if you're just joining us on breaking news we've been covering all night. Right now, Seattle police are looking for multiple shooters after a mass shooting in downtown Seattle. It happened at Westlake Center. Police say 1 person is dead, 7 others are hurt, including a 9-year-old boy who is in serious condition. The shooting was not a random incident. Police believe it started as a fight between 2 groups, and shots rang out at 3rd Avenue and Pine Street around 5 p.m. It's not clear how many shooters were involved. The suspects are at large right now. We have crews monitoring the scene, talking to police, and also checking with hospital officials for any new developments, and we'll have a live update for you in just 15 minutes.
For now, let's get you caught up on some of the other stories happening today. Washington lawmakers have proposed a bill to make the state's temporary ban on flavored vaping products permanent. That bill would only allow for the sale of e-juices considered flavorless or tobacco flavored. The bill would also limit the nicotine levels and the size of those e-juice containers.
More than 1 million voters in King County can now vote in the upcoming election via their mobile devices. This is the first time in the country that mobile voting is available to all eligible registered voters.
Schools could soon be required to teach sex ed to all grades. That is the measure that passed the state Senate today. Current state law only requires schools to teach students about HIV and AIDS prevention every year, starting in the 5th grade.
The latest Link light rail extension project is getting a $790 million boost. The funds could expand the light rail 8 more miles south. By 2024, the extension would include 3 additional stops in Kent, Des Moines, South 272nd Street, and the Federal Way Transit Center.
There's a new texting scam that disguises itself as a delivery notification from companies like Amazon and FedEx. So within the text, there will be a link that takes you to a fake Amazon page that offers you to take a free survey. It'll also then ask you for your credit card information. Don't fall for it. You can get our 5 Things to Know newsletter sent straight to your inbox. All you have to do is text the keyword email to 206-448-4545.
And a live look right now at I-5 in Seattle. It turns out Seattle isn't alone when it comes to bad traffic in our state. A new report finds the entire state is one of the worst to drive in. King 5's Britt Moore reports from the road.
Apparently, we should blame bad roads and high gas prices. That's according to the latest Wallet Hub report that says drivers here in Washington are dishing out a lot of money when it comes to car insurance and car maintenance. Washington is coming in at number 48 in the nation overall, only behind Rhode Island and Hawaii on the list of best and worst states to drive in.